All right, good evening, everyone. Brian Walsh here. Great to be with you on this wonderful Monday, 9th of April. Exciting news because, of course, we are launching or starting the Real Entrepreneur Intensive, online intensive, which we're very, very excited about. But before we get going, there is a chat box. Let me just turn it on. Lots of people already saying hello. Just let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. Just please say loud and clear. Just type in loud and clear if you can hear me loud and clear, so that I know you can hear me and we can start to rock and roll. So please, in the chat box, just type in loud and clear if you can hear me loud and clear, because I see lots of people are just saying how's it and chatting in there as it is. There we go. Lots of loud and clears coming through. Thank you very much. There's a lot of people in the room, so I can't even keep up with how fast they're coming in. But if most people are saying loud and clear, one would assume that you can hear me. Okay, so welcome to the first session, the Real Entrepreneur Online Intensive. There are literally hundreds of you in the room already, and people are going to be notoriously coming in late as I'm speaking. People are literally filing in. So we're just going to go through some formalities before we rock and roll. Good evening to everyone. Just so you know, the chat is open, so you can all see what each other is saying, but it's not going to stay that way for long. I'm going to close it and make it private, which means you can still send messages and I can see them, but you will not be able to see each other's messages. And there's a very important reason why I do that. That is because I do not want you focusing on chat. I want you focusing on the learning experience that you're going through. We are going to leave it open for a short while I ask you some questions, and you can see everyone's interaction on that. So, but I will notify you shortly when we actually will turn the chat into private. Please, you can still leave messages for me. When I ask you to respond on something, you can still respond, and we'll take it from there. I made a fundamental mistake in my own business, which I'm shocked about. Normally, we'd have at least one of my team members in the back end supporting me on this, and I, Brian, decided to forget. I could put the blame on them because they should know, but that's not the point, to actually arrange for one of them to be available tonight. So I'm alone with you tonight, which is very unusual. So just bear that in mind when you send questions and stuff. I'm going to be presenting. I can't see them. I see some people already saying no sound. This is going to happen with some. I don't know. There's a few people saying no sound. You guys can still hear me. Just let me know. So obviously, some people can still hear me. So I just want to check if that's a few people saying no sound. Just confirm, guys, please, if you can. There we go. Eleanor saying I can. Yes, okay. So I'm still, because I've put a lot of effort into making sure we structured correctly and we hardwired into the internet, so it shouldn't be on my side. Obviously, you'll all let me know if we can. So you guys can still hear me. So it doesn't help that I tell people this, but those that are struggling with sound, and somebody might want to type it in, is you can click on the it says something like confirm. There should be a little button at the bottom of the screen that says, reconnect or something like that. So somebody might want to tell the others that are saying they can't hear, because they can't hear me telling them that instruction. But everyone can still hear, so that's great. All right, so we got a lot to get through in the first session. And yeah, so thanks, Eleanor. Maybe just stipulate, if you cannot hear, please connect the reconnect button. Oh, there we go. There we go. Thanks, guys. I don't need my team. You guys are my team. This is cool, man. All right, so we got a lot to get through. There are 6 sessions we're going to go through over the next 3 weeks. This first session is an important one. I see there's lots and lots of you in the room. My wish is that you will stick it out through the 6 sessions, because we do get a decline in numbers as we go along, because people's lives get too much in the way, which is not the ideal situation for you and your learning experience. All sessions are recorded, so if you do miss a session, tomorrow probably, there's just some technical things we have to sort out. You should receive an email from our programs portal asking you to set up a login detail. If you already got a login, then you won't need to set it up. You can just log in, and there'll be a new program which is called something to the effect of REIO after learning or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it's called. It is set up. And you guys will be able to log into that. And that's where you'll get your replays. And also I'll make reference to videos like tomorrow, where you can go and I'm going to ask you to do some homework, and I'm going to give you some videos to instruct you. So I'll let you know as we go along from that. But we'll only share that with you tomorrow. There's a lot of people in this particular REOI, so we just need to set up the bulk update to get everyone in. So bear with us on that. But they will all be recorded, so you can revisit if you miss a session. Initially, you'll have to watch the session from beginning to end, because we want you to watch the whole session, and thereafter we'll upload the videos so you can scroll through them. But hopefully that'll be helpful. So let's dive straight in. We've got a lot to get through today. Let's just talk about the program guidelines. Okay. Like I said, there are 6 2.5-hour sessions. Now, I'm pretty committed to being finished by 9:30 South African time. I know some of you outside of South Africa will find that out now. But in other words, 2.5 hours from now, which was 7 o'clock in South African time, I'm pretty much committed. We'll always be finished in that time frame. Okay, we've done this before, and generally we found it doable. We actually last time did 8 sessions of 2 hours. That's why I'm just a little bit cautious. But I'm planning to finish them in 2 hours, between 6 and 9. But please make sure you booked off till 9:30, and we should finish in that time slot. Sometimes we'll finish early, but we'll try not to finish late. All right, the sessions are today, the 9th, tomorrow, the 10th, then next Monday, 16th and 17th, Tuesday, and then the next week, 23rd, 24th, also Monday, Tuesday, in April as a whole. Try and attend them live. They will be recorded, like I said. So if you do miss out on a session, you can go and catch up on the recording. It is advisable that you go through the sessions sequentially. It's not the end of the world, but it is advisable. Okay. So if you miss a session, let's say you miss tomorrow's session, you've got until Monday next week to try and catch it up. So try and make the time. Remember, they're like 2 hours long to go through the session before you come in on Monday. If for some obscure reason that isn't possible, you can still come on into the next session. There just might be some context that you don't fully understand because you've missed a session. So as much as possible, try and not miss them. And of course, preferable would be attend them live. That would be the most preferable scenario, is that you'll come into them live and actually attend them live during the session as it goes as a whole. Try and commit that time into your diaries and make that happen. If you watch a recording, try and watch it before the next live session. Like I just said, I don't have you in a room. In other words, in a physical room. We normally do Real Entrepreneur Intensive in a physical room. I don't have you in a physical room. Therefore, I cannot hold you accountable to attending and doing the work. Now, even in a physical room, I can't make you attend. But when you are in the room, I can control you to a certain degree. So please take this seriously and commit the time, not just to the live sessions, but also the work that we allocate during them. If you want to get the most value out of this program, it is not actually the live sessions or the recorded sessions that you're watching. It is the work that you do off the back. It's not the knowledge that's going to impact and change your life. It's the implementation of that knowledge that's going to change and impact your life as a whole. So just bear that in mind. Very, very important, okay? So try and really commit to this process, guys, because I know things are hectic and time is difficult, and we're asking you to come into 6 different sessions. In a live room over 3 days, we normally spend 30 hours in total over those 3 days. This one's more condensed, in 2.5 times 6, which is basically 15 hours. But, so it's even less than you'd spend in a live room over 3 days. But I know that to spread it out, is sometimes problematic for people in terms of the time management, something we're going to address quite heavily in this. Do your best. Because if you want to make a huge impact in your business, just taking some of what we teach you can have a massive impact in your results in your business as a whole going forward. So it's not the knowledge that counts, it's the implementation of the knowledge that makes the difference. So please bear that in mind. The programs portal I mentioned, you'll get access to that probably tomorrow. You'll get an email from, literally comes from, I think, Real Entrepreneur Programs portal, and it'll ask you to create a login. And then you'll see, you'll start to see the session. So at any time, we don't send it to you. At any time afterwards, you're just going to log in there. You'll see the previous sessions that you can revisit. And you'll also see additional resources that we give you that we're going to talk you through as we go through the program as well. And then lastly, we have a little thing you can see on the top right of the screen. A hashtag says hashtag REI18. And this hashtag will work on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And what we're going to do is run a little competition. We're going to ask you and encourage you to interact with us through the hashtag. And you're going to do this by simply, either using any platform, be it Facebook, be it Twitter, or be it Snapchat. It's not Snapchat. What's that first? Instagram. And basically, we're going to want you to take a photo, preferably. Okay, you can leave comments there in general. But what we want you to do is, in fact, I'm going to ask you to do this right now, is I want you to take a photo of yourself in front of your computer, like a selfie, saying, yeah, I am just starting REI, REOI is the full term, but the tag is obviously REI18, and put it up there. You must put the hashtag in, otherwise you're not going to see it. We are going to give a pretty phenomenal prize away to the 1 or 2, possibly, depending on what we decide, posts that we believe are the most impactful and the most fun, and we'll share those with you towards the end of the sessions, and we will give a prize away that's pretty substantial, just to encourage you. This is really just a bit of fun and a bit of connection, but please, on either platform, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, send us messages and use that hashtag, and we'll pick them up as best as we can. But try and send us a picture. Try and sort of interact with us in a creative way going forward. In fact, let's start the challenge right now. All right. So I'm going to ask you guys to take a picture of yourself on your phone or on your computer, and I'm going to ask you to share it either on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, and hashtag it to REI18. And that'll get you into the potential to win as well. You want to be a bit creative, but you've got some time to come up with more creative ideas. Now you can just say, hey, I get to see who you are, what you look like. It's like makes it more real per se. So I'd love you guys to do that. I'm going to grab a little bit of water. I'd love you to take some action right now. Okay. And then you put yourself in line to win a truly awesome prize. At the end of the process, we'll start to tell you about what the prize is a little bit closer to it. So, but let's kick it off and let's see how much actually comes through right away. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes. Take a picture or just write a really cool comment or something, and make sure it's hashtagged to REI18 on either of the 3 platforms, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. To be honest, I'm useless on Instagram, so I'll have to get Marlon, our social media guy, to look that up. I can look up on the others though, and that'll start entering you into the competition to win an awesome prize. So take a couple of minutes to do that now before we move on. Just check comments. Give me a second. So I don't know exactly how to look up, stuff on Instagram and even Twitter, but I know like on Facebook, if you just type in REI, I think you have to put the hashtag. It does come up. You'll see a lot of comments from the physical event we did in January. I'm just wondering if you have to put the hashtag. No, that's actually, no, it is our stuff as well. But that's a little bit dated, but I want to see the recent stuff come up, guys. So please do that quickly. I'm going to give you like literally 2 more minutes, and then we're going to start rocking and rolling as a whole. And let's see if we can connect with any. I'm just checking, so I'd like to see if some stuff comes through. I'm only checking Facebook, so you guys can use any of the platforms that you want to going forward. While you do that, let me just check if there's any comments that I need to address. Madhu, you come into the session on Saturday. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's like seriously, Robin and Anne, it's really cool. It's a very cool session. It's a longish day. You'll finish about 6:30. This is just for people in Joburg, by the way. If you don't know what we're talking about, sorry, because I think it's already almost sold out. But it's a thing called the Real Entrepreneur Success Summit that's happening on Saturday. Guys, thanks for helping me out with the people that are struggling, because there are hundreds and hundreds of people in the room. So obviously amongst them are people that are struggling, and they're coming from all over the place. So I really appreciate those of you that are telling them to reconnect, because it doesn't help if I tell them vocally and they can't hear me. So thanks for that. All right. You guys sending some stuff through? I hope so. You've got another minute, so try and make something happen on one of those 3 platforms. Hey, I've seen some coming through now. How's it, guys? This is so cool. I'm not the best with social media, so it's kind of cool seeing guys actually, and I can see guys in front of their computers. This is great, man. This is so cool. I love it. We're like interacting like in a real sense. Yeah. I'm still getting mixed up with some of the live event ones, but this is cool. Okay, brilliant. Thanks, guys. Remember, we're going to keep running this and we keep reminding you because it's going to have some, I'm not going to tell you yet, but if you ignore it and don't take an opportunity to win, you're going to lose out on something really, really cool. So well done on that. Let me get my mouse has disappeared. There we go. And then let me get back here. Okay, so cool. Let's move on. Firstly, before we get into the detail, where are you joining us from? So the chat's still open so everyone can see. If you're in South Africa, let us know which city or town, and also mention South Africa for the internationals. If you're in any other country outside of South Africa, mention the city or town and the country that you're joining us from. So just type it into the chat box. Where are you joining us from now? And try and just mention the country as well for, South Africans, just for the guys that are outside. I see a lot of you. Well, I see the internationals aren't doing it either, and it's flying now, so I can't keep up. But I saw people from Namibia and Kenya, and I saw people from Malawi, and of course, lots and lots and lots of people from South Africa, all over South Africa, which is great. Oh, we got somebody from Colombia. That's great to have you in as well. I don't know what time it is over there. This is flying. Okay, lots and lots of South Africans. So welcome to everyone. And, Uganda, I see we got somebody there as well. Nigeria, and obviously, like I said, masses from South Africa. So it's great to have you guys. Well done. There's another one from Namibia. Well done from you guys that are joining us from outside of South Africa. Our primary market's been in South Africa for quite a few years, but we've been spreading our wings. There's another one from Zambia. Into the international market, and I see that some of the guys that either bought the package or won it in the competition we run are joining us from outside of the country, which is great to have. So it's a real international event, so that's very, very cool. But anyway, you guys can see where people are joining us from, so really excited about that. We are going to turn the chat into private shortly so that you don't get distracted by it. Which means you can no longer help me with people that are stuck. So let me ask you a question and answer this in the chat, all right, in any way that you want to, as animatedly as you want to. The question is, somebody's joining us from Syria. That's amazing. Is that right, Tristan? That's a crazy, you must be contracting out there or something. But anyway, who wants to achieve massive success with their business this year? Okay, being 2018. Let us know in the chat box who wants to achieve massive success with their business in 2018. And be animated, do whatever you want to. Obviously, everyone can still see your comments. It's going to mix up now as people are on slight delays with their dates and what have you. But this is what we're here to do. We're not here to spend this time together for the fun of it. We're here to make a big impact. And I know how powerful the Real Entrepreneur Intensive is because I've done it for a number of years. I mean, our recent event in Johannesburg was it's unbelievable. Like all the speakers, you only get me for the online version, but we have a couple of guest speakers at the live event, and they all got massive standing ovations, and people just raved and raved about it. I've still got students and people all over the world raving about it. People have traveled from 11 different countries in the world to attend the physical events in South Africa as well. So it's been really, really excited. Okay, so obviously everyone's confirming, duh, of course I want to achieve massive success. Why do you think I'm here on a Monday night when I could be doing other things? Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. We're going to put the chat onto private, so don't get a fright when suddenly it stops moving. You'll obviously see only your comments going forward. Let me just remember where to do this. Give me 1 sec. Let's go into the settings, all messages, into private. Go back to chat. And just confirm for me. Come on, there we go. All right, so as from this moment forward, I can see your messages, but no one else can. Okay, so that's just to avoid you. I know some of you are like chat junkies, so you want to sit and talk to each other instead of focusing on the event. So from this point forward, remember, I can still see your messages. So when I do ask questions, please still interact through the chat. It's just that you can't see each other's messages. Obviously, with multiple hundreds of people in the room, we're closing on over 300 people in the room. That's going to cause challenges if everyone's chatting and talking, and it's very distracting, even for me. I hide it, but very, very important to know that. So it's in private now. So you would have seen it suddenly stopped. People are still, talking in there, but no one else can see each other's messages. But please, you are still interacting with me. Because I don't have a team member, my mistake, Please bear in mind that if you ask questions and stuff, I'll have to check it periodically because I do hide the chat while I'm presenting as a whole going forward, which is exactly what I'm going to do right now by clicking on that little button so that I can now focus on the presentation as a whole. So more about me. In fact, let me just ask a question. How many of you have never heard me speak before or never heard me through either live in a webinar or live on stage? Just say no. Type in the word no, meaning I have not heard you. Okay, if you have, you can leave that. But I just want to see out of interest. I mean, most of you should have at some stage seen me either live in person or through a webinar because most of you come from our database. But if you've never ever seen me, just type in no. Okay, there's quite a few coming through. So you guys are newbies, right? Newbies. Excellent. Okay, I always love to have some newbies in the room. You guys are like, is this guy for real? Is he going to give us some value? But there's not a lot of you, but there's a chunk of you, let's put it that way. So proportionally is not masses, but that's great. So there's some great newbies. I saw you live on stage at Robin Banks. That's cool. Otherwise, there's lots of no's. Unfortunately, no. Oh, it's so sad, Johan. Seriously. Okay, cool. All right, so there we go. I get that impact. Thank you very much. So a little bit about me, both for those that know me and that don't, that is going to be relevant to how I teach you going forward. My mouse has disappeared again. Seriously, Walsh, there we go. Doing disappearing X today. So I've started and run 9 different businesses, and I should say 9 different industries because in some of them I had multiple businesses. I started right back in 1986 when I was like 16 years old, and I was printing and selling T-shirts in Cape Town where I grew up. In a place called Green Market Square. Those in Cape Town will know it very well because I think it's still a well-known market there. It wasn't a very successful business, and I was still at school, so I didn't take it that seriously. But I did get my first lessons in the challenges of selling because I was really good at making the T-shirts with my friend. But I've still got a photo of myself back then at the stall, sitting down looking really bored because we weren't proactively selling at all. So, to tell the truth, I had a lot of T-shirts in my cupboard. I had a whole wardrobe full of T-shirts, even ones that didn't fit me because we weren't great. We did sell a bit though, and it was a lot of fun as a starting point. I then got more full-time after I went to the military. It was still compulsory in those days. I got into band rehearsal studios and demo studios also in Cape Town between sort of 1988 and 1991. I also got into band management at the same time. I managed 5 of the biggest bands in Cape Town at the time. Anyone in the music industry, like the music industry was almost non-existent back then compared to what it is now. So please don't ask me if I know people because it's a long time ago and I haven't been in the music industry since then. But I did have a lot of fun as a youngster. Didn't make any money though. So, sort of paid the bills. Truth is that at the end of 91, I got into serious trouble. My dad had to bail me out and I had to go and work for him in Natal, in Durban, in our fishing companies, our family fishing companies for 5 years to pay him back. So suddenly that jumped from 91 through to 96. 94, I got a bit bored and a friend of mine, we imported pots from I think Mozambique and another country, and we used to sell them also in flea markets. Reminded me of my printing T-shirts days, but we did do a little bit better with it this time. But that's hardly a serious business. Then when I finished paying my dad off, I went overseas and I got involved with speakers and people like well-known inspirational and business speakers, and I started to get involved in promoting that through 96, 97 when I came back from Holland. Then I started some entrepreneurial clubs because at this stage in 96 I decided I wanted to help entrepreneurs. That was like my mission in life. But I wasn't a very successful entrepreneur, so I first spent some time running digital media companies and publishing companies. That's where I had about 5 different companies between 98 and 06 with different partnerships in digital media and publishing as a whole. Before I went full-time, when I started entrepreneur.co.za, which was our original domain back in 2006. And I've been running that consistently. It's now obviously known as The Real Entrepreneur, all the way through until now. And a sideline business with that, it was multi-speaker event hosting. So sort of going back to that, we've worked and represented some of the biggest speakers in the world in the space of business and personal development. So we've been doing that. Sort of started, in 2010. So I have other businesses now. This is more my history. I have actually a few businesses that I've both invested into. I don't necessarily mention them as businesses I started because I invested into them, and I have a couple of other service businesses that I don't necessarily publicly put out there. I'm not a proclaimer of having lots of businesses, but obviously as my life has grown and opportunities have grown, I've got involved and been able to invest in other businesses as well. But, my real journey was around these 9 kind of industries, 2 of them being minor, like importing and selling pots and the printing and selling T-shirts, but the others being full-fledged businesses that I tried to run. Now, the interesting thing is I was on stage about 3-4 years ago in the United States, and a friend of mine introduced me up. It was an audience of about 1,000 business owners, and they sort of said, "Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brian Walsh from South Africa. Brian has 9 successful businesses." And I was like, "What? Where are they?" Because this is not the truth. As you can see, they started through the process. And I went on stage and said, "Guys, let's just be honest. I don't have 9 successful businesses. I know it sounds impressive. I've had 9 businesses, and most of them weren't successful." So most of these businesses were what we call survival businesses. After the band management and promotions and rehearsal studios, which I had to get my dad to bail me out, the rest, I never had to get bailed out. I never got shut down. But some of them were disastrous and some of them were okay in terms of consistent cash flow and succeeding as a business as a whole. It was only when I got into entrepreneurial coaching and training much further on from 2006, actually from 2012, so 6 years after that, but started really around 2010 that I started to achieve significant success. 2012 was a massive turning point for me, massive. So I'm not trying to impress you by all these things. It just gives me a little bit of credibility around a few different industries and working through a few different things, in the process, but also just to illustrate the point that, the fact that I had lots of businesses did not make me successful. It is only the last businesses that have really made me successful, over the last sort of 6 or 7 years, significantly. So I used to teach a lot from a space of knowing a lot of research knowledge and, having worked with institutes all over the world. Now I get to teach from that together with the fact of having achieved significant success in my own life, which I think sort of qualifies me a little bit uniquely in the basis of teaching entrepreneurship as a whole. So things really turned around in 2012. In particular, I'll tell you more about the story tomorrow. I realized I knew a lot about stuff intellectually. So the truth is I was teaching people how to be successful, how to succeed in business. But the truth is my life didn't illustrate I knew it. So I knew what I was teaching was good because it wasn't stuff I made up. It was stuff that came from, the best of the best in the world in terms of the research I was doing. But I was struggling. I was struggling extensively. And it was only at the beginning of 2012 I made this realization that, hey, Brian, the problem is stuff intellectually, but you don't know it through practice. And your life doesn't illustrate that you know it. And I made this huge commitment to become a humble student and go on this mission to learn, do, as I call it, from the beginning of 2012. And I can literally plot out the shift in my life that happened from that point forward, through to a massive quantum shift in 2013, where we started to earn in 1 month more money than we'd ever earned in a year before, just to give you the kind of scale of the shift and the growth. And, between late 2013 and 2014, we grew our business almost 20 times. It was about 18.9 times or something in 18 months. Which is not something I recommend, by the way, because that's like serious growth and comes with serious challenges. But was a blessed thing after so many years of struggling. And I went through various other learning cycles through this process to create, more automated businesses and businesses that ran more effectively and efficiently. Because admittedly, when we grew almost 20 times in 18 months, I wasn't quite prepared. I was prepared intellectually because I thought I knew how to run a business. But suddenly being thrown in the deep end, we went from 0 staff to 20 full-time staff and massive infrastructure almost overnight. Posed a lot of challenges. And a lot of what I teach you in these 6 sessions actually comes from that second wave of learning, which is how do we run an organization effectively so that it can consistently deliver and consistently serve us as a business as a whole. So subsequently, I grew my business from a struggling South African small business to a multi-million-dollar company. I have the most incredible team, and I have clients from all over the world. And it's been a blessing. It feels like a blessing. I'm not a religious guy. And when I say blessing, people often think that I'm implying that some other power, allowed me to become successful. Well, even if you do believe in religion, it's still you that has to make it happen because, I was Christian and I still understand the philosophies well. And Christianity, we talk about how your power is within you, right? God gave it to you within you. And it's the same, I know, in the Quran and various other sort of beliefs. But whether you're spiritual like me or an atheist, or whether you believe in whatever you choose to believe in, you are still the master of your own destiny. You are given the power by God, if you so believe, that enables you to do incredible things, but it won't happen by itself. You don't just get the blessing of you wake up one morning and you're super successful. And so, but I do feel truly blessed because when I look back at my life now, I get to travel the world first class now, which is amazing. And literally, you want to see the difference in cost of traveling first class versus normal. I just say that to brag, but it's kind of cool. You know, I think in the last 6 years, I've traveled 18 times overseas, and every single time I'm flying either business class or first class and staying in fancy hotels. And the fact that I can do that and that my business carries on running while I'm doing that is really tests me to having achieved something that I'm very proud of and feel very blessed to have achieved. And I want to help you achieve that in whatever format that might be for you as a whole going forward. So let me actually ask you a question, and please respond in the chat box on this, because you can't see everyone else's answer, but I'd love to hear yours. Let me just paint a little picture for you, right? How would your life be right now if your business made millions in profit? Not turnover, but profit each year. Millions. How would your life be right now if your business could operate 100% without you? Without you being there, the business can operate. Your business does not work. I mean, the business does the work instead of you doing the work, in other words, right? So the business is there to serve you as a whole. How would your life be right now if you had the most incredible team and a business that was fully duplicatable because of how well it was systemized and operated? And you had plenty of amazing, high-paying, loyal clients who get incredible value from working with you in your business. How would your life be? That was a reality. Now, what I want to know from you is how many of you, I know it might seem like a pipe dream for some of you, how many of you want that to become a reality in your life? And let me just address the kind of little elephant in the room here. Some people say, but Brian, why wouldn't I want to work in my business? I'm not saying you don't want to work in your business. I'm saying you don't have to. Okay, it's a fundamental difference. I work in my business. I don't have to do a lot of what I do in my business, but I do it because I want to. The difference is for many years, in fact, decades, I worked because I had to. Okay, self-employed as we call it, right? So how many of you would want this to become a reality in your life at some stage? Okay, so I can see tons of answers coming through here. Stress-free, somebody's saying. Okay, and people are just talking about how much impact that would make in their family and their community. So absolutely. Some of you related to the travel because it's one of my highest values. Okay, so you guys are pretty much confirming unquestionably that this is something that you really, really want to do. And I want you to understand this, because what I'm going to challenge you with over the next 3 weeks or 6 sessions is not going to be easy. I'm not going to beat around the bush and pretend, just take this red pill and you're going to be super successful. The biggest challenge is actually going to be your time. Like, how do you make the time to do these important things? We're going to address that in quite a lot of depth, because that's one of the things that holds people back the most. But I'm here to tell you that as long as you think you'll do it later on, when things are better, then you'll get around to doing the strategic things I'm going to suggest that you do for your business to shift it. It's never going to happen. Never. I spent decades saying I was going to do things later on, and nothing changed. I struggled with money for many of those decades, where like I sort of got by, but I was always chasing money at the end of every month. And some months I couldn't pay stuff. And let's face it, actually a lot of months in those years, I couldn't pay for stuff and couldn't pay myself, and had to, late on rent from a personal perspective, struggled to pay school fees, because I could pay it eventually, but it was like never very consistent. And I used to say to myself, you know what, it's okay. Like, I just want to sort this out. Once I'm more stable, then I can focus on doing the right things in my business to really get it to work properly. Guess what? Never happened. Tomorrow never comes, man. It's always going to be a stress. It's always going to be problematic. So you're feeling symptoms right now, be it, low cash flow or challenges with money, or be it challenges with people, or be it challenges with time. Nothing will change until you make a dramatic change in who you are and how you operate as a whole going forward. And this course is about that dramatic change. Okay, so it is going to seem a little bit overwhelming, but I don't want you to look at it as I've got to do everything that Brian tells me straight away. I want you to very focus on the things that are relevant to you now. You can't fix this by doing it all at once. You've got to fix this one bite at a time, okay? And one of the things we've given you is obviously a manual. Now you should have, I know some of you are going to say, I don't have the manual. The emails you got this morning, and the emails you'll get tomorrow morning, and the emails you'll get every morning before the session. And I think there's 2 reminders that'll come to you. And I think even the email was sent out at the end of last week, all has the links to the manual. So on your screen now, you can see one of the manuals. There's 2 documents. There's REI manual PT1.pdf, and there's REI manual PT2.pdf. PT1 is the one that's full of content, okay? The one you're going to work in is PT2. So make sure it's not the end of the world if you don't have it for this first session. But from next week, you're going to struggle to keep up with me if you don't have these manuals available. So please, guys, go and check your email, download them. If you can, which we did recommend if you were reading the emails, print them out and get them bound. So you have, like at the event, we normally give you like the 200-page manual for you to work off, okay? But if that's not practical, make sure you've got pen and paper, and make sure lots of pen and paper, like pads and pens, in order to work off. And then just have it available on your screen. So when I reference it, you can go back. It's designed not for you to sit in the manual the whole time. You're going to sit with me in the presentation the whole time. But it's got a lot of stuff. We're going to refer to things that we're going to tell you to take further that's in your manual, this very thing that you're looking at now, which we'll talk about tomorrow as an example. And a lot of stuff I might go over quite quickly. There's a lot more detail in the manual about it as well. So please make sure. Don't tell me you don't have it, because you wouldn't be in here now if you didn't get our emails. All right, simple as that. So make sure you go and check the emails. So basically your reminder email that comes every single Monday, Tuesday for the next 3 weeks has the 2 manuals, a link to the 2 manuals, to the 2 PDFs that you can download. Okay, so you should have got it in your reminder email this morning, and I'm guessing you wouldn't be here if you didn't get the reminder email, so just double check that, or just go and, if it's in your junk mail, just go and look for it. There are hundreds and hundreds of you. I cannot afford the time to go and manually send you all this stuff when it has been done for you automatically through our system. So please, guys, make sure you might want to check that right now. It's not essential for this session. Make sure you've either printed it or you've got it available, accessible to you on your computer, or during the sessions from tomorrow onwards, because it's going to become a lot more relevant from then as well. So that's a resource for you, because you're going to get a lot of stuff. I can't expect you to absorb and do it all now. You can revisit this on a regular basis. The sessions are recorded. You'll be able to revisit the sessions, 6 months from now and next month and 2 weeks time and 2 years time, to actually come and revisit the stuff that you might not have implemented straight away because you focused on certain stuff. What I always say at the events is that I want you to identify a handful of things. Now, it's a bit different when we do this online version, because it's spread out over 6 weeks. You can actually identify more things. So try and look for each session. What are the 1 or 2 things I can take out of each session to actually implement and make a change in my business? Okay, don't try and absorb and implement it all. You'll get overwhelmed and you won't actually end up doing anything. That's what happens in the state of overwhelm, which we'll talk more about. Not tomorrow, but next week, Monday, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So bear that in mind. We give you the manuals, we give you the recordings, but don't end any session without having something that you want to implement and change as a whole. Now, who are the teachers going to teach you? And I always like to start with this, because it's not Brian Walsh's knowledge that I share with you. It is a combination of knowledges from many, many different people, okay? And I just want to credit some of them up front just on screen, because, some of them I'll reference. I'll say this was a Dr. Stephen Covey, or this was Simon Sinek. And sometimes you'll even watch a video during the session with some of these guys that'll actually talk to you and teach you. So understand that. But I just want to make it clear, this is not Brian Walsh teaching you what Brian Walsh thinks is right. This is Brian Walsh teaching you a collaboration of the greatest minds and greatest business specialists in the world, teaching you what's right. And so that's a big statement, but I'm blessed to know all of these people, most of them personally. Dr. Stephen Covey's passed on already, unfortunately. Frank Kern is my personal mentor in online marketing. Brian Tracy is a good friend of mine. Dr. John DeMartini is a great friend of mine. Brendan Bouchard is a friend of mine. Michael Gerber, I've had the privilege of meeting Michael personally. He's quite an elderly guy now, but I learn from him all the time. He's the famous author of The E-Myth Revisited. Tony Shea, I didn't get to meet Tony. I've been to Tony's offices and I've worked with some of his senior team at Zappos in the United States in Las Vegas. And unfortunately, Tony wasn't there. He was going to be there, and then unfortunately he couldn't, so I never got to meet him personally, but we have interacted. Tio Ecker, I've got to meet personally and work with personally, who's an amazing. Simon Sinek, I haven't got to work with personally, but a couple of friends of mine are very close to him, so I have indirect, direct access to him, and I've worked with his organization directly. Dr. Stephen Covey, like I said, unfortunately passed away a few years ago. Tony Robbins, I work with. We're one of the primary promoters of Tony in the world. And there's a guy called Brian Walsh. I'm not quite sure how he got on the list, but anyway, he's there. You might learn from him as well. So these are some. Now, there are going to be other things I teach you that I might not have mentioned where they came from. I can't remember, but there's a lot of strategic things I'm going to teach you that are going to come specifically from some of these individuals. I will reference them as we go along. You may want to take your learning experiences further with some of them. That's your own discretion, because these are all mentors of mine and incredible, incredible people in their own right as a whole around business. It is kind of sad that they all men. I just noticed that now. I got some female mentors. There's a new lady in my life, not my personal life, but those of you that are coming on Saturday will meet, called Ann Williams. That's now a personal mentor of mine. And I worked a lot with Laurel. I've gone blank now. Laurel. It's a German name. A number of years ago. But yeah, so, please forgive me. There are other people that fit into here. One of my mentors for many years, my good friend Salal Sele. So there's other people, but these are ones in particular we're going to reference as we go through as a whole. So what are we going to focus on? So over these 6 sessions, we're going to focus on mastering entrepreneurship, mastering yourself, mastering money, mastering order, and mastering teams. Mastering marketing. So I can pretty much roughly tell you. I had it written down, but it's on another thing that's not open. Today, our focus is going to largely be on mastering entrepreneurship and one aspect of mastering yourself. Tomorrow, we're going to focus predominantly on mastering yourself and mastering money. Next Monday, we're going to be focusing on mastering money again and mastering productivity. And then the following day after that, which is the next Tuesday, we're going to be focusing on mastering order. And then on the next Monday, last Monday, we're going to be focusing on mastering teams. And the last Tuesday, we're going to be focusing on mastering marketing. So just to give you a rough idea of how it gets split out, it's pretty much in that order as we go through it, okay? They're all critical components to understanding and being able to master the overall game of being a real entrepreneur and actually achieving significant success as a whole going forward. So are you ready? Let me quickly check in with you guys. Let me know in the chat box, are you ready to get into this? Have you got your water next to you? Have you got a pen and paper ready to make notes? Or have you got your manual printed out? Are you ready to rock and roll? Let me know in the chat box. Remember, the chat is on private, so I can see all your chats, but you guys can't see each other's. But let me know so we can start this journey, which is going to be pretty intense over the next 3 weeks. All right, excellent. So hundreds and hundreds of you responding. So thank you so much for that. And that obviously means I'm still broadcasting without my support team in the room. I run the risk of losing you but not knowing it because I can't see your comments. I will check every now and again in the comments box. Ready to rock and roll, as everyone says. Let's get going. Guys, please have a pen and paper, right? As much as you're going to have the recordings of this, you might even have the downloads of the slides, off the back of those recordings. It's not about, I'll get to it later. You want to identify the critical things you want to work on now. And so we want to make this as practical as possible. We want to take notes around stuff I tell you. And in this session already, we're going to start to do some work. So you're going to need pen and paper for that. So let's bear that, make sure that you understand that going forward as a whole. So let's rock and roll. Wrong screen again. I've got a whole lot of screens around me. Come to the right one. Okay, so I want you to close your eyes. Now, I know we're not in a room, hopefully you're not driving, because then don't close your eyes if you are. But hopefully you are by yourself somewhere at home or at the office. And I want you to close your eyes and just listen to my voice, just for like, a short while, a couple of minutes, okay? I want you to imagine this. Imagine that you had a meeting today on Monday the 9th of April with your accountant. Okay, and I'm going to assume that most of you have a financial year that ended at the end of February. And your accountant presented to you your financial management accounts, okay, which are pretty much now the sum up of the last financial year. And this is what he reported to you. He said, listen, the cool thing is that we made 6.5 million Rand profit in this financial year. 6.5 million Rand profit. For those that don't know rands, just take a zero off. You can do it in dollars, but also $650,000. Okay, just to be a more realistic equation to what I'm talking about. For those that understand rands, you're going to get this. Your accountant just told you that. So why don't we close our eyes and actually imagine this is real, that you just made 6.5 million Rand profit. That your dividend payout, the dividend payout is your personal share of profits that's paid to you as a shareholder of your business, is going to be just shy of 2 million Rand. And tomorrow morning, when you wake up and go into your personal bank account, there will be a deposit of 1,998,643 Rand, whatever, okay, just shy of 2 million Rand, which is your dividend after tax payout that has been paid to you by the company because of the profits that it made. So I want you to imagine, before I even take this further, that you have just been told that your business has made 6.5 million Rand or $650,000 profit. And you are getting a payout as dividends after tax of 2 million Rand, just shy of 2 million Rand, or just shy of $200,000 into your bank account, and it'll be available tomorrow morning. How would your life be right in this moment if that was a reality? What would you spend that money on? I hope you're closing your eyes. I can't check you. If you're in a room with me, I can kind of, watch you, but because I want you to visualize this. That's why I'm asking you to close your eyes. And I want you to actually imagine this as a reality. Personally, you got 2 million Rand out of the blue. dividend after tax payout. You can spend it any way you want. Your business just made $6.5 million in profit. So we've paid our tax and we've got a few million left in the business, just to carry us, for the next year. And it gets better. It gets better. The plan that your strategic team has put together is showing that you will increase your profit to in excess of 10 million next year. And your expected dividend payout at the end of the next financial year, and you can get this possibly in 2 payments, like every 6 months, is going to be is going to be close to 5 million rand as a dividend payout after tax to you. So not only have you just got 2 million rand and have a business that's doing 6.5 million rand in profit, and by the way, this is small business talk. Okay, I just want to be realistic about that. This is a reality in my life and other people's lives as an example. And we still classify it as small businesses. But you've got a business that has been targeted pretty, with a serious strategy to almost double its size in the next 12 months and pay you double the amount in payouts to you. So you think in a year's time, you're going to have 4 or 5 million rand in after-tax payouts. This is your bonus, by the way. It's not your salary. You get your salary every month over and above this. And you've got a business. Let me ask you, just imagine this, if you want to take it in a slight detour. Imagine that as of now, courtesy of what your accountant just told you, there's enough cash in your reserves in your business to pay to operate the entire business without any income for the next year. You could run your whole business without making a cent of income, and there's enough money left over in your business to pay all those expenses for an entire year. How would your life be different? How would you feel right now knowing that as a reality? What would you spend that money on? I know you guys know, right? At least some of it, like you're going to do this and this and this. You've got $2 million in your personal bank account. You've got a couple of million in reserves in your business account. You've paid all your taxes. You've got a thriving business that's going to grow and grow. It gets even better. You've got a team of people that love your business. In fact, your team run that business better than you could ever run it. You've got these incredible people that are incredibly happy that run your business for you. It's your asset. You don't even have to be there. Maybe you'll sit in a board meeting every now and again, or maybe you'll, like I'm a marketing director in my business, not even the managing director, right? Or I've got other friends. I've got another friend who's exactly the same. He's the owner, but he's the marketing director of the business. We do the things we love to do, and we don't have to do the other stuff, or we don't do anything. But this is the reality of what you've created: a business that serves you, a business that is there to be an asset in your life. Now you can open your eyes, okay? Open your eyes. Come. All right, I know some of you are going like, wait. I want this to be real. I'm telling you it can be real, but it's not the lottery. I used to play this thing where imagine you won the lottery and you won this amount of money and all that kind of stuff, but that's the chance game. That's like when on the 1 in a million chance, the 1 in 50 million chance that you won a whole lot of money, or you found out about an uncle that you 5 times removed that you didn't even know about, that hates his entire family and tracked you down on his death. Or his lawyers did, to tell you've just made just got a $20 million payout or something. Like, that's all fantasy. What I've just explained to you is a potential reality. It's a reality that I've experienced, it's a reality that some of my clients have experienced, and it's much bigger versions of that reality that other of my friends I can now comfortably call or at very worst acquaintances inside my business and what have you have achieved in their lives. It can be done. But what you're doing right now and how you're doing it is never going to achieve it. Let me say that again. What you're doing right now and how you're running your business is never going to achieve that reality. We have to change it. We have to make some significant shifts in our business as a whole. Now, I just want to start by saying, I hope you've opened your eyes now. Hey, come on. It's time to focus now on the screen again, right? I want to start by saying success is 3 things. It's wealth, meaning, and freedom. Not one of them. It's not 2 of them. It's all 3. True, real success is when you are wealthy, when you have absolute meaning in your life, and when you have absolute freedom in your life. These are our institute, the Real Entrepreneur Institute, studied this extensively for about 7 years to determine, what is success, because we talk about people being successful, and it came to this conclusion. Okay, and wealth is not how much you earn. Wealth is how much you are worth, or how much you keep. I want to say that again because it's critical. We're going to come back to this tomorrow when we talk about money. Wealth is not what you earn. Wealth is what you keep. Okay, wealth is what we call net worth, right? That's the measurement in personal terms. Wealth is a personal equation. You may have shares in a business that adds to your wealth, but the true successful wealth is the wealth where in your personal level, your net worth is worth a certain amount. Now, everyone, I'm not even going to ask you because I know that every one of you listening right now would like to achieve financial freedom sometime in your life. Financial freedom means that you no longer need to work, but you still get to live the lifestyle that you want to, which is probably a lot better than the current lifestyle you have. All right. So we always say that your assets, your wealth, which is often money and ownership of other assets, pays you more than you would pay yourself or that somebody else would pay you in a salary, and affords you an incredible lifestyle. This does not happen overnight, but if you're not working towards this, you'll never get there. You know, I'm a pretty fortunate guy from a financial perspective, but I'm blessed to know some ridiculously fortunate people when it comes to wealth creation. I've got a friend who's worth $3.2 billion in net worth. Just want to say that again, $3.2 billion US dollars in net worth, right? There's only 1,000 and something billionaires in the world. He's one of them. That's a pretty exclusive friend. Okay. And I've got a number of friends who are worth, in excess of $50 million in net worth and over $10 million in net worth. And all of those amounts, particularly in an African context, would give you complete financial independence, even if it was just cash that you were earning 6% a year on. Okay, in a very safe place. You would have a quality of life that's 10 times what you currently have, if not more, and you would never have to worry about money again in your life. Okay, so the 3 billion, well, that's just ridiculous, as I've said to him many times before. But he got stuck in the mode of making money like most billionaires do. But I have my personal net worth goal is, and don't ask me why, it's a long story, but my personal net worth goal, which is up in my office at home where I am now on the wall in massive letters, is $31 million US dollars. So my net worth of $31 million US dollars. Now, when I set that goal, I did not go, well, I've got 5 million, let me take it going forward, right? I didn't wait until then. I said it when I didn't even have the first million. And so at the end of the day, in fact, when I set this goal, I didn't even have the first million rand, let alone the $1 million. All right. So now I've progressed a little bit on the channel. And like I said, it's a long, weird story how I got to 31 million. It's like a weird number, but that's my net worth goal. I believe I will have achieved my financial and wealth goal when I am worth, through my assets and money and liquid assets and physical assets, 31 million US dollars. Okay, it's a long story. That's how big I think. For a lot of you, to achieve financial freedom with a really good quality of lifestyle, you're probably going to have to amass like, $5 to $10 million, or they say in rands, like, 50 million to 100 million rand. Now, for some of you go like, what? I never, that's crazy. I'm never imagining that. For me, I started to think bigger numbers. But if you wanted to have, let's put it this way, if you had 100 million rand in assets, let's say the simplest asset, which is money, where you've got it invested in very safe havens because we don't want to lose the capital, even though you could be diversifying and get a much better return. Let's imagine you only got 6% return, which is crazy low. Okay, just about any safe haven can give you this kind of return just on your cash sitting there. So you got a 6% return on your 100 million. Does anyone know how much that is in an annual income? Well, it's kind of obvious if you go 6 of 100, 6 million. That means you will be earning 6 million rand a year through your interest. So even if you reversed it and you still had to pay tax on that, you're still going to be pretty well off, all right? If you're clever enough, you would have paid pre-tax and got your dividends potentially tax-free. But that's a more complicated conversation. So now you might say, like, the price is ridiculous. I don't need 6 million rand a year to live off. I don't need like 1 million rand a year to live off. But there's an unfortunate reality that I'm not going to go into in depth because we're going to run out of time if I do that. But let me just put it in simple terms. You can do the calculation yourself. The cost of living doubles approximately every 10 to 12 years. Doubles. So let's just say 10 years, like in the South African market, it's currently with inflation, probably every 10 years it'll double. So if your current lifestyle costs you 500,000 rand a year, which is a pretty reasonable lifestyle, in 10 years' time, so let's say you're 40 years old now. Okay. When you're 50, it's going to cost you $1 million a year. And of course, it's going to grow exponentially through that process, right? When you're 60, it's going to cost you 2 million rand a year. When you're 70, God forbid, which is still young in my opinion as I get older, it's going to cost you 4 million rand a year for that same lifestyle that you have now at 500,000 rand a year. When you're 80, My dad told me that he planned his entire financial life on reaching 80. He didn't think he would reach 80, and so he thought that was the cutoff. He's now 82 and pretty healthy, so he got a bit stuck. But when you're 80, it's going to cost you 8 million rand a year to maintain the same 500,000 rand a year lifestyle that you might have now. So just understand that's a very simple formula. But if you work that out, like, it's fine to say you don't need 100 million now and 6 million rand a year now, because you probably don't. But you're going to need it down the line, assuming you're still going to live for a number of decades. And maybe you want to have, this is based on you not touching your capital so it can carry on funding charities and other people afterwards. But you've got to understand. So I don't know what that wealth goal of yours is, but I want to tell you that every one of my wealthiest friends, and this is advice I have keenly taken, have said you will never become wealthy until you measure your net worth. So if you're not measuring what you're worth right now, be it negative or positive, you'll never become wealthy. So I want to just stress that, okay? It's a bit of a digression, and we'll talk a little bit more on it personally tomorrow, but mostly we're going to talk in business. Wealth is about the money you keep, not the money you make. Meaning is about the relationships you have, because all the money in the world will not give you a sense of true meaning. Meaning is how you relate to the world. So to me, the most important relationship is the relationship with yourself. For those of you that are religious, you'll also put up there in the hierarchy the importance of the relationship with your maker, your creator, your faith, your belief. Okay, I combine those. Actually, when I talk about myself, it's my spiritual and my physical connection and the relationship I have with myself. The reason I say that's the most important is because you can't effectively be loved or love other people if you can't love yourself. So a major part of my journey was realization that success came from who I was more than what I did. So I had to become the right person to achieve success. I had to become the right person to be loved. I had to become the right person to be healthy. I had to become the right person to achieve anything of significance I wanted in my life and to have incredible connections with people. It wasn't about the money. All the money. I mean, let me tell you a little story, and this is the reason I don't mention his name. The $3.2 billion net worth individual I mentioned, okay, who's a dear friend of mine from Canada. He is divorced 3 times. He's estranged from his family, from his children. He's divorced. I think he's been married 6 times, if I'm not mistaken. He's estranged. A number of his children don't even speak to him anymore. And when I met him, and that's why and how I met him, is he was on a mission to find purpose in his life. Because he had sacrificed meaning and freedom in the pursuit of wealth, only to become kind of miserable. I mean, he was retired, I think he was in his early 70s. The point is that I'm trying to say is, as much as we like to think wealth's not important because meaning's more important, they're both equally important. But you're not going to be successful just by becoming wealthy. You're going to need relationships. And the most important one is the one with yourself. And then freedom is literally that ability to be able to do whatever you want to. I know other people who are worth, $20, $30 million in net worth, but still work their asses off every day, and not by choice sometimes. I know that sounds a little bit obscure because they could technically retire. But the point is, freedom is that ability to do whatever you want, wherever you want, whenever you want, however you want. And very importantly, if you are not married, just want to be clear about that. If you are not married, then you can also do it with whomever you want. But if you're married, you need to be careful about doing whatever you want with whomever you want, okay? Because it ain't going to work so well. So this is wealth. I mean, this is success, wealth, meaning, and freedom. And I'm clicking on the wrong screen again. Your business is supposed to be a vehicle that helps you achieve personal success. So forget the reality for a second here, right? You start a business with the objective of helping you manifest wealth, meaning, and freedom in your life. The vehicle, the reason you're in the session, what we call the real entrepreneur, is a person that develops a business that serves them personally in life. It helps them move towards creating greater wealth. It helps them move towards creating greater freedom. It helps them move towards greater meaning in their lives, okay? The destination is not what it's all about. It's the journey. Wealth is not the destination. I'm now worth 100 million. It's what you're doing today to increase your net worth. It's what you're doing this year to take it one little step further. Okay. Same with the quality of your own relationship, the best version of yourself. It's what you're doing now. Freedom. It's all about what you're doing now around managing your time and building assets so that you become free as a whole. Your business is a vehicle, guys. We end up making our businesses like another child, so desperately fragile in its chaos of life when it's actually dead and died 3 years ago. We still try and keep it alive because we feel like it's such an emotional wound if we lose it. I've shut businesses down. It took me many years, decades to learn that a business is just a vehicle. And if it's not working properly and it's costing you more money than it's making, shut the damn thing down and start again. Okay, it's another story I'm not going to get into. But I need you to understand it's a separate entity and it's there to serve you. If it's not serving you, we need to do something about it as a whole. Very, very important. Now, when we get into the personal goals, okay, I actually wanted you to do something now quickly. I just want to see the time. Okay. So, all right. So this is what I want you to do. Now, I want you to come up with 3 personal goals. All right. Now, if you got your manual, there's 2 manuals. Remember, part 2 of the manual is your workbook. It's the place that you work. So you'll find it in part 2 on page 6. Okay. Part 2 of the manual's on page 6. But, if you haven't printed it, it's pointless me telling you that because you've got to write it on a piece of paper. I want you to come up with 3 goals that are related to these 3 areas of success: wealth, meaning, and freedom. So let me make it quite simple for you. Wealth is simple. How much are you going to increase your net worth by in the next year? Now, I know some of you don't know what your net worth is, so guesstimate it. For some of you, your net worth is minus. You have more debt than you have assets, right? So you might, have debt of 500,000 Rand and assets that are maybe worth 150,000 Rand, meaning your net worth is minus 350,000. I don't care if it's minus 5 million, okay? I don't care if it's plus 5 million. I'm not interested in how much it is. I do want you to go and figure out what that starting point is. What I want you to know is how much you can increase it by. Now, if it's minus 350,000, and you might say, look, I just want to get it to minus 250,000 before the end of this year or any given period, that's okay, as long as it's moving forward. You don't amass $10 million of net worth by worried about, you don't do it like overnight. You start by amassing the first 10,000 Rand in net worth, or $1,000 in net worth, or 100,000 Rand, or $10,000 in net worth. So what's your goal? I want you to set a goal now. It can either be till the end of the physical year, which is normally what I suggest, on personal goals, meaning the end of December 2018, or the financial year, if you want to think of it from a business perspective. A lot of you, that'll be the end of February next year or somewhere around there. But give it some time. And I just want you to thumb suck. Normally, I'd want you to work it out. Inside your manual, there's actually a whole equation you can use to work it out. Don't get stuck on that. The only wealth goal you should have is how much you're going to increase your net worth by. So start with that. Meaning is everything to do. I always refer to the personal relationship. So my meaning goal is a health goal because it's the way I relate to myself. I've been on a big health mission for the last 6 months. I've lost over 26 kilos. And it's a massive transformational health mission in terms of my entire lifestyle, because I decided that my second half of my life, I'm going to be a lot healthier than my first. I've been saying this for years, but doing nothing about it. Now I'm doing something about it, and I'm super, super chuffed with the results that I'm getting. But so it could be a health goal. Maybe you want to lose some weight. Maybe you want to put on some weight. Maybe you just want to be healthier. It could be a relationship goal. It could be a personal growth goal. I need to change my attitude. I need to become a better person. It could be I need to develop a better relationship with my wife or my spouse or my children. It could be I want to build a better relationship with my coworkers. Something to do with relationships. It could be a better relationship with your God. It can be just, you might have multiple goals, but I want you to think of the one most important one around meaning. Relationship with yourself or with others that you think should be a goal. Now, this is hard to make tangible because your goal might be, I want to improve my relationship with my daughter. And it's not very tangible. Like wealth has a tangible increase by X amount. You're going to have to figure out how to measure it yourself, but I want you to set a goal. At least one for now that is specific to meaning. And then lastly, freedom. And our freedom can be anything to do with your holiday time, time off, recreational time, how much you work, how much you don't work, those kind of things, right? Anything to do with time really as a primary is your freedom goals. So I want you to I'm going to give you like 3 minutes to do this, okay? Because I don't want you to overthink them and I don't want you to come up with 25 goals. I just want one goal for each of them. What is your wealth goal for the end of 2018? Please write that down, what your deadline time is, or mine is still for the end of 2018. Your meaning goal, something to do with relationships, either with yourself, with your God, your spiritual, religious relationships, or with other people. And your freedom goal. And you might have multiple goals, but I want you to think of what is the number one most important. If I could only get one relationship to seriously improve in 2018, which one would it be? And with freedom as well. So freedom is anything to do with time. So I have freedom goals of how much time I take off. In our company, our senior guys, we all get, 2 weeks off every 3 months, as well as the end of year holiday on top of that. So it's pretty cool. But I have goals around that. And I don't just set the goals of time off because that's already formulated in our business. I set goals of what I'm going to do in that time, right? So that it becomes more, specific around that. But I recently created a new goal or a new rule in my life that said if I worked for 2 consecutive weekends, I would take a long weekend off on the 3rd weekend. I'll talk more about this when we talk about productivity next week. So guys, I'm going to go quiet for a while. You're not losing sound. I'm just muting myself. I want you to spend a couple of minutes writing these goals. If you want to share them with me, you're welcome to. Remember, no one else can see them. But I want you to be proactive. We're going to start with some work. So get going. I'm just going to give you 3 minutes from now. So please do that now. All right, guys, that's your 3 minutes up. And thanks for those that are sharing. I mean, it just helps me sort of interact with you. And I can see, in classic style, which is often the case in the room, like some of you are obviously relatively successful already when I look at your net worth increases over the next year, and others are more, conservative. Remember, it's one step at a time. When I started this, I was in a minus, and I remember my initial goal was to be debt-free in the year, and I didn't achieve it. Took me 2 years. So at the end of the day, I understand that relationship to it, but it starts there. Now I'm working on my millions in dollars. So, it shifts there if you just focus on it consistently. But it's great to see your guys, people are sharing their meaning goals, their freedom goals, their wealth goals, etc., which is really, really cool. So I appreciate that. Okay, so you can see on the screen, this is your second part of the manual, hence the REI manual. It doesn't look like that. It looks like that, all without spaces in your download. Part 2, which is your workbook, okay? And so this was on page 6 if you were using the manual, which is your personal goals. We're going to get to some of the other stuff a little bit later. But let's get going. I'm not conscious of time because I don't know how long this is actually going to take, but I'm doing my best. So let's see where we are. It looks like we're going to do some more work, judging by that slide that just came up, which is cool. Yeah. Okay. Right, so we're going to do some more work. So keep your pen hands ready, all right? Let me stop my stopwatch so that I make sure I do the right time. I can start it again, reset. So now I want you to work inside the plan on 4 different things, okay? Let me just see. 4 different things. This is things called, now this is in your manual. If you've got the manual, you don't need the manual. Just have a pen and paper to do this. But if you do have the manual, if you did print it out, this, I think, starts right at the beginning of this is manual 2, your workbook manual, right, versus your knowledge manual. And you'll see here right on page number 1, because the cover page is not classified as a page, your big, crazy, audacious goal. It's the first thing I want to work on. Second thing is your 5 major moves for your BCAG is your big, crazy, audacious goal. 5 major moves for 2018 and your 2020 vision. Now, let me explain this to you before you work on it. And I'm going to give you a little bit of time. I'm going to push you with this stuff because we don't have the luxury of spending hours on this. And the same happens in the main room. And I just want you to start it. But I want you to start working on it. So let me just explain what these are. Firstly, what is the big, crazy, audacious goal? So a friend of mine, Brendan Bouchard, you saw him on the list of people that popped up there. Brendan's like one of the most successful people in digital teaching and marketing in the world, multi-millionaire in dollar terms. I think he earns about $20 million a year in his company, and about half of that goes through as net profit into his life before tax. So he's a pretty successful individual in his own capacity, right? And Brendan's a teacher. He teaches people how to be successful online, but he's a general. He's so successful now. He's known as a kind of young guru teacher. He's written 6 books that have all been bestsellers in the world and what have you. You guys can look him up. He's an amazing, amazing guy. And Brendan a while ago was with me, and he sort of said, he said, Brian, what's your big, crazy, audacious goal? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, what's the driving force? Like, what is it that you really want to achieve through your life and your business? And I said, well, I don't know, he said, well, did you used to know? And I thought, yeah, I think I used to know. And he said, yeah, here's the thing, man. We need a big, crazy, audacious goal. Crazy means nuts. People should be going like, duh, that ain't going to happen. If you don't have people actually laughing at your goal, then it ain't crazy enough. Big is crazily big, okay? And audacious means bold. Like, you got to be kidding me. Like, seriously, you're going to do that? This is not a time-based goal. This is not something that you put out there and saying, in 2 years, I want to achieve this. I mean, that could be a big, crazy, audacious goal, but my crazy, audacious goal is like a lifetime goal in what I do through my business, all right? My big, crazy, audacious goal is to coach 1 million people from all over the world. Let me rephrase it. To coach 1 million entrepreneurs from all over the world. What I'm doing with you now is not coaching, by the way. I'm just teaching you now. So we have a very, a coaching company, Real Entrepreneurs, main drive is coaching. And I'll tell you guys about that later on, in the next few sessions, so you can see if it's something you might want to get involved in. And, our ambition is to actually coach 1 million people from all over the world in business. Now, let me just put this in context because you won't have any context. So I know the owners of the 2 or 3 biggest coaching companies in the world today. Okay, I'm trying to think now offhand. One's an Australian, one's a Canadian, and the other one's an American. Okay, and they're all international companies and brands. And if they were sitting around me, and fortunately I know 2 of them very well, the one I don't know very well personally, if they were sitting around me and we were discussing this and saying, and I said to them, guys, my ambition is to coach 1 million people, they would laugh at me. Now, I don't know the exact numbers. I've done a lot of research on this and got input from them. But the biggest one, which is Brad Sugars, who started Action Coach a number of years ago, has not eclipsed, and maybe that's a bad example. I don't know the exact stats from Brad, but I do have more accurate stats, at least a year ago, from Michael Gerber's company, the Dream Room, which has coached around 80 to 90,000 people around the world. Brad, I believe, is closer to the 200,000 mark. So in other words, the biggest business coaching companies in the world have, and these guys are all crazy wealthy guys. They've got very successful companies, have worked with, at best, maybe 200,000 people. So I'm saying I want to coach 1 million, 5 times higher than arguably the most successful business coaching companies in the world. You got to understand that's crazy, right? So you might not have context. To you, it might seem like, okay, but that, that's cool. It's just a big goal because you don't have context. I've just given you context. That's what I mean by big, crazy, audacious goal. I'm not saying yours. I mean, I am a guy that wants to change the world. I'm not saying you are. I'm not asking you to be that. Maybe yours is more contextual to something smaller. Maybe you want to be the best of something in your city. Maybe you want to be the most successful in your community. That's entirely up to you. The most important component, the most important reason you need to have a big, crazy, audacious goal is because it should inspire you. So whatever you write there, when you think about it, it's got to go like, yes, man, this is what I want to do. And this is all coming from Brendan when he lectured me about this 4 years ago. And it was like, you need an inspirational, crazy, audacious goal. Okay, I just want to push. When I work with people like my coach students, I push them and I push them and I push them. And when I first, after Brendan spoke to me and I thought about it, I said, you know what? I want to coach 10,000 people. That's what it started as. And then, about 2 months later, I was coaching some of my students, some of my high-end students in a workshop coaching group. And then I said to them, you know what? And I changed it on the spur. And I said, I want to coach 100,000 people. And it was a 2-day coaching workshop. And by the end of the 2 days, I realized that it was 1 million. Because it just didn't feel right at 10,000, and it didn't feel right at 100,000, but it felt right at 1 million. And you know why? Because in 2006, when I started Entrepreneur.co today, I said, and I wrote it down, that I want to influence the lives of 1 million entrepreneurs in the world. So, this was like 2006, 10 years prior. No, I'm talking rubbish. It's Brendan like 4 years. So about 10, 8, 9 years prior that I'd made that commitment. And I realized that when I said 1 million, because our website we've had over 5 million unique users on our website. So, we've touched the lives of more than 1 million people. But I knew that I didn't mean in that way, not in a simple way. I meant in a serious way. And coaching is our most serious way of connecting with people. So kaboom. My big, crazy, audacious goal is to coach 1 million entrepreneurs from all over the world. Okay. When's it going to be achieved? I don't know. In my lifetime, hopefully. Okay. I'm not, here's the thing about the big, crazy, audacious. It's not about the outcome. Okay. It's never about the outcome. It's about the journey. Because when I realized that actually I had this big, crazy, audacious goal, I remember calling some of my senior, team saying, I need to have a meeting with you tomorrow morning. We sat down and I said, that plan we have currently, tear it up and throw it away. Because the way I was thinking was never going to take me towards this goal of 1 million students, right, or 1 million coach students. And so I was literally acting year by year at a level that wasn't going to take me to where I really wanted to go. We tore up the plan and we came up with what we call major moves, which was also taught to me by Brendan Bouchard. So we looked at what are the things that have to become a reality in order for us to have an organization that can coach 1 million people. And we came up with many, many things. And we said, what are the 5 biggest ones? The 5 things that if they were achieved, would outstrip everything else. Like they would have the greatest impact towards us achieving this big, crazy, audacious goal. And we came up with what was called the 5 major moves for this big, crazy, audacious goal. All right. And then we break it down. So when I did my strategy beginning this year, for instance, I looked at, we have those 5 major moves. Our whole team has them. We review them every day just to keep them front of mind because it's easy to forget about these things that you should be working on about the bigger goal. We then came up with what we said, the 5 major moves for 2018. So basically we looked at these big 5 major moves, this major, crazy, audacious goal, this nutty thing that we came up with. Some of you are going to take some time to get to the real nutty goal because you're a little bit conservative or you're not quite in that space. Some of you know it already. What are the 5 major moves that, think of it this way, the 5 major things that have to become a reality in order for us to achieve that big, crazy, audacious goal, okay? Because those are 5 focal areas. And then when we look at the current period, like in the next 12 months, what are the 5 major moves for the next 12 months? Now, I actually aligned all 5 of my major moves for the year with the 5 major moves to achieving the big, crazy, audacious goal. These became the most important things that I actually need to focus on. Let's not worry about them now. I just want you to try and identify them. The last thing I'd like you to just think of in this, I'm not going to give enough time to do this all in detail, but I want you to start and then you can take it further, is what are the major skills you need to learn in order to move this forward? So I want you to think over the next 12 to 24 months, preferably 12, what are the skills I need to learn? I don't want you to just randomly learn stuff. I want to know, like what are the skills you really need to learn? I remember one of mine was not how to write a book, because I know how to write a book and I've published 11 books for other people. It was how to write a bestseller book. All right. So I went to talk to my friends that are global bestsellers and I said, I want to know what you did, because a lot of people teach you how to write a book. That's not actually that hard. You even self-publish it or get it published by somebody else. I want us to focus on I wanted a book that's going to be a bestseller, which I'm still working on. I've been procrastinating a little bit. It's a major thing at the moment, so I spend every day working on it. But it's not about writing the book, even though I'm trying to write the masterpiece like we often do. It's about how I get it distributed, how I get it to become a recognized book throughout the world, so it helps grow the brand, which is another one of our major moves that we're trying to focus on. So this is what I want you to do. I hope you understand. If you really don't understand something, please just let me know in the questions box, because I'm checking it now in the chat box, and I'll elaborate, but I want to give you some silent time. What is your big, crazy, audacious goal? What are the 5 major moves to achieving the big, crazy, audacious goal? What are the 5 major moves for this year or this period, or however you want to say it, over the next 12 months or before the end of the year or whatever? And what are the 5 skills you think you need to learn over the next year or so that'll help you move in this direction of achieving this big, crazy, audacious goal? Does that make sense? A lot of people are saying they understand. Great. Then I'm going to go quiet again. I'm going to turn my mic off. Focus on that, pen and paper, start articulating whatever comes to mind. Guys, I know some of you are going to have to think about this in more depth and really contemplate, as we call it in Mind Power, but I want you to start writing some stuff down. So try and get as much of that down in the next 5 minutes that I'm going to allocate for you to do that, okay? 5 minutes, I'm going to go quiet, then I'm going to come back and I'm going to, you guys can share it with me if you want to. I love it when people share it because it's private. You can even share it, other people won't see it. BACD, well, it's BCAG. I think you're talking about the BCAG is the big, crazy, audacious goal. So you can see it on the screen there, big, crazy, audacious goal, abbreviated BCAG. Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. Sorry, that's going to fix it right away. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm busy correcting you when actually you are correcting me. It's the AG. Okay. Big, crazy, audacious goal. Thank you for pointing that out. All right, so rock and roll with that, guys. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Please share it with me if you want to, and I'll interact with you in a few minutes' time. Okay, I see there's lots of questions coming through. Okay, got it. Just reading comments. PCAG, big crazy audacious goal. I don't know if that's Marina what you're asking. Yeah, so the Fricky building blocks to achieve a goal. Yeah, so really what we do, Fricky, when it comes to the 5 major goals, major moves, is I initially just write down as many as I can think of, like what are all the things that have to become a reality in order for the goal to be achieved. And so often I'll write down 20 or 30 things. So those are like your building blocks. But then I look for the 5 major ones, the ones that'll move the needle the most, the ones that'll have the greatest impact. If we could only achieve 5 of those things, which would the 5 be that you would choose? And that's how we identify. That's why we call them the major moves versus just the moves per se. Cool, guys are sharing. So Marlene, we're not fixing the problem yet. We're just creating the clarity. So you're talking about what we call shorter term goals. What is the big, crazy, audacious goals? That's what I want. Don't get stuck in the reality of what's not working and where you're struggling now. That's a mistake we often make. We're trying to think way out of the box here. We need something that gives us the bigger picture before we start getting into the detail of doing certain things. Shalani's saying, I don't know how I'm supposed to know what these moves are. Shalani, this is the thing about it being an entrepreneur. Okay, you can't sit back and expect somebody else to come and tell you what your major goal is and what you're going to do to achieve it. You have to get into your head and start figuring this out. So, I'm not asking you to come up with a detailed plan. That's something you can learn through process. But surely if you know your major goal is to coach 1 million people, you can guess what things would have to become a reality in order for you to have an organization. I'm just using my example to coach 1 million people. You can go, well, geez, I guess I'd have to have a brand that's known throughout the world. I guess I would have to have an infrastructure with coaches and representatives in multiple countries all over the world in order to get, and that's how the major moves come into fruition. So surely if you know what the major crazy audacious goal is, you can start to at least guess what are the things that need to become a reality in order to make that happen. You can't just say, I don't know, because that's just a cop-out, So at the end of the day, well, who's going to know? Like, you can't expect somebody else to come and do it for you. So maybe you're thinking too out of the box. I'm not asking for the detail, guys. I'm asking for the major crazy goal and then the major things that would have to become a reality that you think in the current context that would lead to that major goal potentially becoming reality. Yeah, and cool, man. Okay, so you got like a minute left. All right, and that's your allocated time for this little exercise. Please, I know that many of you wouldn't have finished it, so make sure, what I do suggest, if you can, is, from 9:30, keep another half an hour so you can actually just finish some of the work, or get up early in the morning, or allocate time in your diary, as we'll discuss next week about time management and productivity, to actually do some of this work, because these exercises become crucial. You might not fully understand it now, but you'll know as we go along why they become so important. Thanks to those that are sharing their goals. And it's such an amazing thing to see the diversity of big, crazy, audacious goals. Some people are nuts like me and want to change the entire world. And other people have, what I would call more reserved, but are still big, crazy, audacious goals because it's all contextual to where you are. But I really appreciate it. I wish I could share them all with you, but I think I prefer this to be a bit private. Sometimes these are not things people want to share with hundreds and hundreds of other people. So thanks. And guys are sharing their major moves. And I appreciate that. That's just a way of interacting with me. But we're going to move on now. So, because we've still got a fair amount to get through before the end of today's session. Okay, so we're going to come back to planning later on. And this is the kind of starting stages towards building a plan. all right, in a lot more detail. There is a video. I must just actually update it because I got the old video, but I'll do that before we get there. In your programs portal that you'll get access to for all your recordings and stuff, there's a video that walks you through step by step using the actual the manual 2 that we gave you, which has a whole lot of planning tools in it. There's a video that you'll have access to in a week or so where it'll actually talk you through actually using that whole planning system as a whole. But it starts with the exact stuff that I just shared with you right now. Okay, so we've got to get through some mastering entrepreneurship. This is just a contextual thing about understanding. We've actually really set the whole mood around this already by doing the visualization goals and talking about the outcomes and wealth, meaning, and freedom. So I'm going to go through this relatively quickly, and there's one critical part at the end that I want to get to. So let's talk about mastering entrepreneurship. So firstly, I just want to draw up a comparison of entrepreneur versus self-employed. Okay, we're at the real entrepreneur. And the reason we call it real entrepreneur is because entrepreneur, by simple dictionary definition, means somebody that starts a business or businesses at risk with the hope of making profit. And that kind of means everybody that starts a business, right? But the truth is, at the end of the day, we think of as entrepreneur as somebody that's successful. So a real entrepreneur is somebody that builds an asset, a business that actually serves them instead of them serving it. And that's the fundamentally what we're talking about now. Now, some of you have just started out or haven't even started a business, and it's more about trying to do it right from the beginning. But most of you have got existing businesses, and so your challenge is how do you get the bloody thing to work properly, okay, and stop being a pain in your butt. So there's a fundamental understanding from a mental perspective of the difference between an entrepreneur and a self-employed person. Like I said, dictionary definition, Oxford dictionary definition, entrepreneur is a person who sets up a business or businesses taking on financial risk in the hope of profit, which is from the Oxford dictionary definition. I love the fact that they say hope of profit, but we'll talk more about that tomorrow. So self-employed is somebody who works for a salary. So think about employed, you work for somebody and they pay you a salary. Well, self-employed is, well, you work for yourself, but you just get a salary, all right? In other words, I'm just creating a job for myself. That's the focus. Now, I'm guessing that's not what you intended to do. Some of you by mistake ended up like that. But you're working for a salary and you have limited growth potential or desire. You don't have a big, crazy, audacious goal. You're not trying to do something amazing with your life and business. And so there's nothing wrong with being self-employed. But you don't probably need to be in much of this webinar or these sessions if you're just happy being self-employed. In other words, I just created a job for myself. You see this in a lot of professional things where like a lawyer starts a law practice and works for himself versus working for somebody else, or a plumber starts a plumber shop, or stuff like that. But when the plumber decides he wants to create a business that does all the plumbing work for him and he doesn't have to do it himself, and then he starts to become a real entrepreneur. So the entrepreneur is somebody who works for more than a salary. So I get a big salary in my business and I'm very happy with it. And it's, I don't think many other people would pay me as much as my business pays me as a salary, because I'm so brilliant, of course, But I don't work for my salary. I mean, I do more than enough work for my salary. I work for the profit. We had a strategic meeting with our team today, and the whole focus was around our profit goal for 2018 or financial year 2019. And we've gone through our first quarter and how we're going to review it and what we're going to change and what we're going to do to make sure that we get a profit goal. Because profit, we'll talk more about this tomorrow, is the outcome financially in a business, not paying your bills. Paying your bills is like just self-employed. Making profit, making success out of the business. Remember what the actual definition says, the hope of profit is a critical component. And then most importantly, entrepreneur is a vision. The reason I drove you with this whole thing of a big, crazy, audacious goal, and a vision is something you see. Michael Gerber, you'll hear him in a video, I think in the 4th session or something, and he will talk about like a particular individual in a particular company, because it was many years ago, that had a vision. He could see in his hand, hypothetically, what his business would look like down the line, what it would look like, how people would dress, how people would be treated, how people would act, what the brand would look like, how people would interact with the business. He could see it. He visualized it. And the many great entrepreneurs, from the legends like Elon Musk and Richard Branson and Bill Gates, all the way through to even people like Warren Buffett, which are different energies. We'll talk about that just now. They all obviously super successful billionaires and what have you. They all self-made, and they all started with a vision. They all started with something that wasn't remotely a reality. I mean, both Steve Jobs and Bill Gates famously both started in a garage at their parents' or friends' houses, okay? And they built that start in. If they didn't have a vision of what they wanted to create, they wouldn't have got very far. They might have had a nice little computer store or something, But instead, they had a vision, and they kept putting that vision out because they didn't want to build a little self-employed business. They wanted to build something that changed the world. And that was part of their context of the vision. That's why I want you to have a big, crazy, audacious goal. It doesn't have to be as crazy as I want to put a computer on every home desk in the world, which was, Bill Gates' vision. It can be far more, contextual. I want to make an impact to my community or whatever, but it must still be a vision, a reality that's not real now, that you move towards creating. Your job as an entrepreneur is to move towards creating a reality out of that vision. Does that make sense? That's a key component. And you're not an entrepreneur if you don't have a vision. If you just want to earn a salary or have a business that pays your bills and keeps you sort of comfortable, you're not an entrepreneur, because that's not vision-based. That's just self-employed, which has its own challenges. Many of you, by mistake, ended up being self-employed, right? We'll talk more about that later on. So Michael Gerber, that I mentioned earlier, that we're going to watch a video in a few days' time on, he talks about the 3 hats of business owner. He wrote the book, The E Myth Revisited, the E, letter E, Myth Revisited. E stands for entrepreneur. So in other words, the entrepreneurial myth. Revisited literally meant it was the second book. He wrote in 1989. The first one he wrote in the 70s. He's still with us today, an elderly guy, but that book, The E-Myth Revisited, is the biggest selling book on entrepreneurship in the world today. All right. And in The E-Myth Revisited, he talks about the 3 hats of a business owner. The one is called the technician. The technician is the person that does the work. So if you're a plumber and you start a plumbing company and you do the plumbing, you're the technician in the business. All right. If you're a designer and you do the designing, then you're a technician in the business. So it's if you are doing a lot of the service delivery inside the company yourself, you're a technician. Technician's a person that does the work. You obviously, when you start a business, you're going to have to play the role of technician. Many of you, unfortunately, are stuck in the role of technician, and therefore you're not necessarily playing the role of manager. Manager is where you're managing other people in an operation to do the work. And then most importantly, the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur is the person who has the vision and guides the business towards achieving the vision. Now, what we're saying as a business owner in small business is you wear all 3 of these caps. The problem is, most of you are stuck being a technician in your business. You're not getting to be the real entrepreneur. You're not even getting to be the manager effectively because you're so busy doing the work. When we talk about productivity in a couple of days, when I say a couple of days, in a couple of sessions, so next week, you're going to realize how much of a problem this actually is, because you are so busy doing all the time that you're not getting around to work on your business. You're so busy working in your business. That's the term that Michael Gerber made very famous and is commonly used in the world today. I've got to stop working in my business and start working on my business. The real entrepreneur works on their business. You're going to have to be a technician for the meantime. But every one of you, my goal was always, how do I get the business to work without me? Remember the vision I gave you right at the beginning, the general vision of having a business that makes millions in profit and that can work completely independently of you. Those 2 fundamental factors are what real entrepreneurs focus on. So you can't do that while you're stuck being the technician all the time. How can the business work for you if you're the only person that can do the work? So as Michael Gerber would say, you've got to build a business that does the work as opposed to you doing the work. Most of you have built a small business where you do the work instead of a business that does the work. Okay, and therefore you're not a business owner, you're more of a technician or self-employed person as a whole. So the real entrepreneur, so I've kind of summed that up. This is just an old summary of it. The real entrepreneur owns a business that generates healthy profits and pays out wonderful dividends each year. The real entrepreneur is driven by purpose, has wonderful connections with his staff, suppliers, and clients. The real entrepreneur does not have to work in the business, but if they choose to, they only need to work a few hours a day or a few days a week. The real entrepreneur is always able to see what is happening in their business from a distance. The real entrepreneur is able to go on long holidays at least twice a year. By the way, when I say long holidays, I mean at least a month. Just so you get some context on that, at least twice a year without worrying a minute whether your business is operating optimally. Okay, so it comes back to, can your business operate without you? The real entrepreneur is able to spend more time with their family and friends and dedicate however much time they want to in helping their community in a way that brings them joy and greater personal fulfillment, hence the freedom. All right, so this actually covers wealth, meaning, and freedom in these different explanations. We went over this right at the beginning, obviously in a slightly different format, but that's the context of what a real entrepreneur is. A person that has an asset that works for them instead of them being a slave for the asset. Now, I want to talk to you about something called the business life cycle. This is in your manual with a bit more detail written-wise in your manual. This was something that as far as I know, Tony Robbins created this. I mean, I learned it from him, but some of the stuff Tony teaches he got from other people. But I don't recall, and I may be wrong, that he mentioned somebody else created this. I think he created this concept. He basically said there's multiple life cycles or life stages inside a business, right? And he used the analogy of a chronological life. In other words, a human life. Like in human life, we have birth. Okay, so there's 10 stages. Let me just put them up there first. So the first one, birth. Okay, because as a human, you first get born. I mean, you could say get conceived, but let's put that in with the birth process. Then you have something called infancy, and then toddler, and then teenager, and then young adult, and then the prime, we like to say as we get older, and then you get midlife evaluation, and you get aging, and you get institutionalization and death. Okay, so this is not entirely the chronological life age. The thing about human life is it's generally governed by age. All right, so birth is birth when you start. Infancy is the first, couple of years of your life at most, right? Toddler is the next 2 or 3 years of your life. Teenager is obviously when you turn 13. And then you get young adult, which, you could say is in your early 20s, and then prime. I used to say it was in my 30s, then I became 40, and then I said in the 40s. Now I'm in my late 40s going closer to 50, so now I'm pretty sure prime's in your 50s, but I'm setting my own rules, okay, but you can decide. But from a physical perspective, your prime is somewhere around that sort of, 30 to 40 mark per se. Midlife evaluation is now more the context of business, but, you do start to look at your life, and you talk about the midlife crisis that often happens around the sort of between the 40 and 50 age group kind of thing. Aging, when you start to physically age and deteriorate. Institutionalization, which is the unfortunate reality that some of you have put your parents in, or some of you want to put your parents in, or some of you want to put your children in institutions. And death, obviously, is when the body stops to function, okay, in the physical format. So when we look at a business, we're going to use these same terminologies around business. But of course, the biggest difference in business is it's not chronological. It's not set. So birth to infancy to toddler is not a set time frame. Some of you are 10 years into your business and you're still at infancy level. Some of you are 10 years in your business, still at toddler level. Okay. Some of you are 3 years in the business, still birth level. Like, hello, come out of the canal. Can we grow now? Right. So there's no rule to saying how long you should spend in each area. The rule of success in business is to try to get to prime, the zone of maximization maturity, classic kind of Tony Robbins language, right? Can you get your business to prime? And then most importantly, can you keep it in prime? And, there are businesses that have been in prime for 30 years. There's even businesses that have been in prime for 50 or 60 years. They fall a bit over to midlife evaluation, reinvent themselves, come back, but they literally have been maximizing results through their business for decades and decades and decades. There's even ones that have been doing it for hundreds of years, right? So not like chronological life, where there's not many people that even live to 100, and if they are, they're either semi-institutionalized or very aged. So please understand, as much as we're using the terminology, the biggest difference here is it's not time specific. You can birth the business and move it through to teenage or young adult in 2 years, if that's what your strategy was, and if you knew what we're going to teach you over the next lot of sessions. So let's just look at them in a little bit more detail. I want you guys to guess, because there's no test for this. I want you just to make an assumption as to where you think you are, and just now you can actually share that with me. So birth is when we start a business. Okay, so it's right at the startup phase. We pretty much work on it. We're pretty much running the business for our own benefits. So it's like a job at the beginning, right? Like we're just working our backside off, hoping to get paid for it. And it's a bit of a challenging time, and we manage ourselves, and there's not much structure in place, and there's not much order in place. It's just this kind of like crazy startup, often messed up, chaotic phase that we're in business as a whole. In infancy, we're still completely in survival mode, okay? So we're still just worried about paying bills every single month. But we might have hired a person or two, not in the most structured and ordered manner, but we've definitely got a little bit of help going there possibly. And our business still revolves around us, and cash flow is still a significant challenge. So at birth, it always starts with a challenge, cash flow. But infancy, if you're still struggling with cash flow, the odds are you're still at least at an infancy stage as a whole, right? Toddler, business walks and talks on its own. So now we've got a bit of an organization, right? It's got a bit of a brand. People recognize it from that perspective. And, it's got a little bit of a wagger, like a toddler walking for the first time kind of thing, right? But you still manage it through crisis. Let's just face it, right? We deal with crises on a daily basis, putting out fires. You've begun to build a management team. So you've now started to think about having people around you, or you've partnered or employed people that actually have management responsibility in the business to a degree, okay? You've started that process as a whole, even though it may still be a very difficult process for you. But your business still relies pretty much on you for core decisions, okay? So you don't have a management team that can make their own decisions and manage things effectively. You're still pretty much in charge on a whole basis. And cash flow is still a concern. So in infancy, it's a significant challenge, at birth as well. Toddler is maybe you're doing okay some months, but other months are sort of negating it. You're not really making profit, you might be making a bit of profit, but month by month cash flow is still a little bit of a concern. So cash flow is one of the easy ways to assess where you actually are on that basis. Teenager is where it changes. In a teenager, we actually start to set up a professional team to manage the business. Cash flow is no longer a challenge. So please do not tell me you're a teenager business, or even worse, a young adult business, when cash flow is still a concern for you on a month by month or year by year basis, all right? Because then you're clearly still in toddler phase. But teenager cash flow is no longer a challenge. Money seems to flow like crazy. But there's lots of other things. We think that growth is all about focus, innovation, and it's rampant, so it happens faster. The phase that I grew in 20 times in 18 months is classic teenager phase, and I must tell you, it almost killed our business. So suddenly money was flowing left, right, and center. Everything we touched turned to gold. We were just in charge. Management tends to create crisis, so I was definitely party to that because it's so crazy and so fast and like a whirlwind of activity. And you become overconfident. Boy, can I tell you a number of times that I've gone through teenager phase and almost died. Teenagers, some of you guys have teenagers. All of you were teenagers, like everything. Like teenagers know mom, don't tell me what, I know, they think they know everything, right? And that's a dangerous place to be, because it's a kind of like arrogance that can really get in the way. And my overconfidence in teenage phases sometimes led me to hit a brick wall. Where I'm cruising, I'm making lots of money, I'm lacquer, boom, hit a brick wall, because I just thought that everything I did would work, because everything I did turned to gold. But actually, and I remember a phase not so long ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, and I spoke about that big growth phase, where like just everything we touched just turned to gold. Like we just did shit and made tons of money, right? And we just pushed our luck, and we pushed our luck, and we pushed our luck until we did something too big, too quick, that almost bankrupted us in one go. Okay? And thank God we survived that. It was a great learning sphere for me in the second phase of I need to freaking all learn how to do this stuff properly, right? And a lot of what I'm teaching you over the next few days comes from that second phase learning. But, you got to be careful of the overconfidence, and more means better. Like, we just keep doing stuff. We keep ruffling the feathers. And trouble is imminent, I promise you. You don't want to hang around teenager. You don't have to be in teenager for, what is teenager? 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. You don't have to be in teenager for 7 years, like a human life. Okay, you can be in teenager for 6 months if you're clever enough. And then we get young adults. So the big difference between a young adult business is we tend to anticipate the future. We're not in the now. We're starting to go like, so what do we do now that's going to lead to a big change in 6 months' time? We're going to take the business to the next level. We limit our focus. We don't try and do everything. We actually consolidate and say, let's do a few things really well rather than lots of things averagely. And we start to focus on systems. So we start to say, well, how do we automate and systemize this business? And we redefine what success long-term is. So you tend to find that in the toddler and infancy and teenager phase, we seem to think success is this. But as soon as we start to settle down in young adult, we start to realize, that's not actually what the success of this business and life is. There's something bigger to it as a whole. And we settle down and we get serious in our business as a whole. And we rebirth. Sometimes you completely rebirth your identity. You'll see this in a lot of businesses where they'll change their whole brand and everything in a young adult phase, because they realize whatever that crazy, innovative, madness was that we were going through from birth all the way through to teenager, it led to us having a certain identity. Now that we've settled down and we're starting to build a real enterprise, we often rebirth identity because it's time for actually solidifying who we are. And it could be complete name changes sometimes, often brand changes, or at least just, how we want the world to recognize us as a whole. Prime is where we all want to get. This is where we reap the maximum rewards in business. We have a fully systemized business. Our business is fully run by a management team without you having to interfere. You have consistent delivery to community. Your organization knows what you are, it knows what you're not, and it knows what you will be in the future. Okay, so I said that in a slightly different way that it's written, but organization knows what they are not, and what they will be in the future. Sales and profits are growing, but so this is where we want to be. Okay, the problem that we risk when we get to prime is that we fall over and we start to go into midlife evaluation. Now, a lot of prime companies will fall into midlife, reinvent themselves, bring in a new CEO, whatever, bring it back to prime, and they'll bounce up and down like that. Others, like many institutions like Telkom in South Africa or SA or whatever, will fall down to SA is a fully institutionalized institution. It requires institutionalized intervention to keep it alive, as an example. So there's no reason that it has to be that way. It could be a prime organization like an Emirates airline if it just played the game correctly, and it was at one stage a prime, international airline, but it fell off the edge and it kept falling. And basically, what happens when you fall off is things begin to break down again. So we start to almost reverse, there's this chaos that we came out of. and then started getting to order and maximizing the business, suddenly starts to reverse and the chaos starts to come back. Entropy, which pretty much means we start losing interest, starts to begin, in the team, the leadership team, and the team as a whole. And the question really is, do you rejuvenate or continue to age? So it's a warning sign that a lot of people will get to where they go, you know what, it's time to reevaluate and actually rejuvenate the business to get it back to prime. But many that don't, and you see this, like I said, in state-owned institutions or where they lack leadership and what have you, at phases that suddenly you just carry on aging. And you have to innovate in order to change. Otherwise, you start to die. So if you get to aging, things start to break down. The breakdown starts to accelerate, okay? State of denial, you go through this kind of phase as owners, that the problems aren't that big or it's somebody else's problem, right? Focus becomes on being the victim, it's because of the government or it's because of this or because of the market or because of being screwed, in something or other. And you begin to attack and blame. And you'll see this happen internally. Many of you wouldn't have experienced this. You would have experienced some of these symptoms in the younger versions as well. Talented people begin to leave, okay? They often begin even in midlife evaluation, but you'll start to see high quality people suddenly leaving. Organization, institutionalization is the organizers literally kept alive by artificially through subsidization. So if you look at an SAA or even to a degree Telkom, who's sort of cash okay, but Petra SA, classic institutionalized organizations, we literally call them institutionalized. They actually, they're all government owned enterprises. Unfortunately, that's just a nature of that particular beast. But they've fallen right down to institutionalization. If they didn't have the government that could bail them out, they would have been bankrupt and shut down a long time ago. But this happens in corporate world as well, okay, where you have a company that's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and it has billions of dollars in revenue, and it has international associate companies, and they bail it out, and the only reason they're still okay and they haven't gone bankrupt is because somebody's institutionally looking after them. So this is not a lekker place to be. And you kept alive by systems, rules, and policies, and no innovation or focus on serving the needs of the community. And death is pretty simply that the vision is no longer sustainable. No one is left to support it. So you're dead. Okay. So just to give you a little bit more insight before you decide which one you are, you might have already decided. So the greatest challenge in birth is proving the concept and making money, full stop, any money. Okay. Greatest challenge in infancy is consistent cash flow. Greatest challenge in toddler is building an effective team. Greatest challenge in teenager is lack of systems and overconfidence. Greatest challenge in young adult is transition to organization. So let's innovate. Less innovation is required. Greatest challenge in prime is cost management and lowering of intensity because it starts to get too easy and simple. Greatest challenge in midlife evaluation is the vision or values of the business change due to the founder leaving and new people being brought in with new values. Okay, there's a whole explanation around that, which we'll talk more about in a later session. And in aging, a mix of people, processes, and customer problems, just a whole lot of problems, chaos again, right? You had chaos in the toddler and infancy in the early stages, and now you're back to chaos just on a larger scale. Institutionalization pretty much means you run into loss. So you've been supported through, either your institutionalized support or through false pretenses. And with death, the greatest challenge is simply that you're dead. There's actually not a great challenge. It's just like it's finished, it's over, it's klar, it's kaput. We can finish it going forward. So my question to you is, which one of these do you think you are? So share with me inside the chat box. It should, I hope I've given you enough. There is more in the manual on this, so you can go and read it in more depth. But I just want you to make an assessment of where you are, because part of your journey as an entrepreneur is how do we move to the next level? Okay. And that becomes a process of understanding. So I'm actually going to put up, let me take the challenges off because this might be more helpful. All of that up. I don't know if you can see it on the screen. I know it might be a bit blurred because it's very small. But where do you guys think you are? So we've got, let me scroll down and see what people are saying here. So we've got birth. We've got lots of births. Okay, lots of births. Young adults. Okay, it's a big jump. So, for young infancy, toddler stage, birth, infancy. I suspect that almost all of you will be on the left-hand side to the top. Birth, infancy, infancy, birth, birth, infancy, toddler, infancy, birth, teenager, beware, birth, after 3 years, still in infancy. I'm glad you put it that way, Joe, because we need to, I'm going to just explain one more thing about this just now, but remember, it's not specific to age like life is, like a human life is. 18 years of business, still toddler, so even more so for Henry there as well. Definitely birth, infancy, birth. Okay, so midlife evaluation. So there's always a few people that are actually across on the other side. So thank you for that, Annie. Pre-birth. Okay, Nick got you, right? I haven't even got going. That's still birth, we call it. It's the whole pre-birth to birth phase. It's like the conceptualization is part of the birth phase. Okay, we've got infancy, combination of you may be moving between the two, infancy to toddler, toddler to teenager. Okay, so you can see, so this is pretty much how it normally is when we're talking to like a few hundred entrepreneurs at once. Of course, most entrepreneurs, the majority of people out there are stuck between the first three, really, between birth, infancy, and toddler. 11-year-old infant, yeah, we got it, I got it. I've been there, done that, right? So here's the thing. Let me just put some context to this. This is from the words of Tony Robbins when he explained it to me. It's like, here's the thing. So you have a child. We have a little child who's 2 years old. Little, beautiful, gorgeous, well, terrible twos possibly, but, my little daughter, I remember when she was 2 years old, and even though she was terrible twos, she was more terrible threes than twos, but she was so cute. I just look at pictures, I'm going, oh man, look at that thing. Don't know what happened. She's 14 now. No, I'm kidding. She's still an amazing girl. But at the end of the day, it was like, you got this child, so 2 years old, still needs a nappy, okay? Not that unusual. Don't know exactly when you start potty training, but it's somewhere around the 2.5 or somewhere around, if I remember correctly, Dad. But it's like, it's a problem. Like the fact that you have to change nappies and they keep pooping in the nappies and that kind of stuff. It's like, it's a problem, but it's a natural problem. Does that make sense? What if you have an 8-year-old and the 8-year-old is still pooping in its pants? So that's, you would agree, is also a problem, but it's not a natural problem. Okay? It is natural for a 2-year-old to still be wearing a nappy or pooping in its pants. It is not natural for an 8-year-old to still be pooping in its pants. Now, these are chronological in life age, right? I can literally make that assumption based on a little bit of knowledge I have around raising children. But some of you, as you've even admitted, some of you are in toddler or even infancy phase, but you're 11 years old. So you're dealing with cash flow, which is still a significant challenge, but you've been in business for 11 years. That means you're like a 20-year-old pooping in your pants, okay? It's a problem. I get it. I hear it. I've been there many times before as well. I went decades with cash flow problems, right? But it's not a natural problem. So if you are literally at birth, I started 3 months ago, I'm just starting this month, or, anything up to a year old, and you're still at birth, it's acceptable. It makes sort of sense. But if you're still at birth after 3 years, that's not normal, right? You can't still be in the damn birth canal for 3 years. Your mother would have died, okay? And if you're stuck in infancy for 10 years or toddler for 10 years, it's not natural, okay? It's not a natural problem. It's not a normal problem. It's an abnormal problem. So I need you guys to make that assessment. I think some of you already have by listening to this, okay? If we're stuck, we're stuck. And we've got to flip and we'll snap ourselves out of being stuck. Now, it's not chronological. It's not to say that you should be in birth for this much time, in infancy this much time, in toddler this much time. If you birth a business properly, if you took everything we teach you over this next 3 weeks and actually implemented from day one in a business, put all effort into preparation and creating structure and order, you could shift your birth business to young adult in 2 years. You could even do it in a year. I mean, I'm pushing my luck, right? But if you did it properly, you could shift the business through those first 3 or 4 phases in the space of a year or 2 years. So some of you might be at infancy. You might have been in infancy for 11. I want you to stop focusing on infancy. I want you to start focusing on young adult. I always push to young adult. Okay. When I was toddler, I remember a few years ago, we said in our business, we're gonna skip teenage because what happened before? We're gonna go through teenager in a blink. We need to get a young adult. What does that mean? We look at things like that young adult is all about being more focused and starting to develop systems in our business. And you're going to hear me talk about this over these days. So we start to develop systems in our business before it's even before there's even a lot of people in the business. We do it in advance because we want to accelerate our path towards an organization that eventually becomes prime and maximizes its results. That's the whole point. So I want you to identify where you are. I want you to write it down. I want you to be clear about it. And I want you to start asking the questions by just looking at, there's more stuff written in the manual about it. Start looking at, so if I want to go there, which says that I would be a business like this, doing this and acting like this, well, then I need to start changing what I am now towards being that so that my business can naturally move in that direction. Does that make sense? Versus being stuck. Those of you that have been an infant for 11 years, You're stuck being an infant, guys. You're not growing up. And that's a problem. You need to do something dramatically to change it, because the longer you stay stuck, the harder it becomes to grow completely, right? And so I'm just using infant as an example, toddler, whatever the case might be. So all of you, lots of different journeys. Like I said, there was one or two midlife evaluations, but everyone else, interestingly enough, no one said prime. So that was quite interesting. But there were a few young adults, there were quite a few teenagers, but there were lots of births, infancies, and toddlers, right? So we need a shift. So we've got to think differently and act not the way we act in now, not stay in the crisis and the stuck in the chaos that we're in now. We need to shift beyond that. Does that make sense? Let me know if that makes sense, because we're going to move on to one little last thing to finish today's session. So tell me if you think that makes sense. Just let me know in the questions box just before we move on. I mean, I think I'm on the other platform, in the chat box. Does it make sense what I've shared with you right now? Is this something you can work with? Because it's a great starting point for a lot of you. Cool, Joe. You get in there. You get in there, man. Okay, excellent, excellent, excellent. Hundreds of yeses coming through. Some of you with huge exclamation marks and perfect, perfect. Okay, cool. All right, so we're going to digress a little bit now. We're going to start talking about, let me get my screen in the right place, what we call, so let me just go through those screens that I backed off, mastering yourself. So we're going to address one particular issue now in mastering yourself. I want you to understand, we talk about you are the chokehold in your business. It's very important to understand that the chokehold in a business is like you whatever problems you're going through, I guarantee you are your problems. All right, you're going to go, it's the government, it's the economy, it's the industry, it's everything else, but I'm telling you, it's you. You are the chokehold. You're blocking off the airway of your business. If you're stuck being a toddler for 5 years, you are stuck because of you. And so a major part of what you want you to understand is that fixing your business and your life and turning your business into asset comes from you. It doesn't come from outside influence. It's you. You have to change the way you think. You have to change the way that you act. You have to change the rituals and how you operate on a daily basis. You, yes, you have to change. Okay, so we're going to talk more about that tomorrow, but I'm going to start with one aspect around this, okay? And this is something, let me ask this in the room. Has anyone in the room just no, you've been typing yes in, so let me just see where it starts. Okay, I want you to do this. Has anyone in the room done either wealth dynamics, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, then clearly you haven't done it, either wealth dynamics or contribution compass. These are two fundamental testing systems we use in natural energies inside entrepreneurship as a whole. So please don't type in yes, because everyone's been typing yes, right? Yes, me. Okay, type in yes, me, or Diane saying both. So I guess that's related to that. Have you done wealth dynamics? Have you done one or the other? And if you have, in fact, tell me what your profile is. That's an easy way for me to check it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then obviously you won't put it in the end. But if you know what I'm talking about, because I know them both, what is your profile? What is your profile? So let me know what your profile, because then I know you've done it. And if some of you are going like, I've done it, but I can't remember. Well, then you haven't really done it, because if you can't remember, you didn't quite get it, right? Okay, so we got a champion. We got, okay, so you're talking about wealth dynamics, steel energy. So that's not actually doing the wealth dynamics test. It's a small part of it. So you only know the energy, you don't know the actual profile. Nikki, how's it? Nick's creator, obviously like me. So most people saying no. Some people are still answering previous questions because they delayed. Champion, star champion, Diane knows both of them. Champions like star for those that know wealth dynamics. Okay, creator. Okay, so lots of no's coming through. Haven't done it. Some of you have done it. Okay, so I'm gonna because I don't want to spend a lot of time because we're going to talk about it later on, but I want to give you kind of basis of what it's about, right? So hear me out. Even if you know this, it's always good to get an overview of what it is again. So I'm going to use sort of general terms. We work with Contribution Compass now, which is created by my friend Carl and his team at Sadar. But it doesn't matter. Well, if you're used to Wealth Dynamics, please keep using it. I mean, Roger's a good friend of mine that created Wealth Dynamics many years ago. But we talk about this kind of square, okay? And the square sort of implies that there are. I just want to see something. Just give me a second on the right screen. Oh. So we talk about the square, and we talk about different energies. Now, this is a natural thing. It comes from ancient understanding of life, or energy on our planet. Okay, it's going to sound a little bit out there if you're not used to this kind of stuff, but it's profoundly accurate and profoundly true. So we use simple terminology. So we're going to talk about innovative energy versus timing energy. So if you looked at a square like this, your innovative energy is what we call our top energy. Innovative energy is people that are thinking from a perspective of opportunities and creation and innovation, right? Time and energy is more centered and grounded energy. And then you get this left to right dynamic is what we call people energy or system energy. I'll go into this in a little bit more detail just now. But if we had to look at the functions inside a business around these different energies, your innovative energy is all about product development or product improvement and problem solving. So innovative energy does pretty well in the chaos because we're constantly solving problems, although it does get pretty draining. But from a real functional perspective, we're really good at building, developing, and improving the product as a whole, right? So that's our innovative energy in context. I'm generalizing. There's obviously lots of little things that come into play as well, but just to give you a kind of idea, your sensory energy or timing energy is about consistent delivery and customer experience. It's about, literally making sure we're constantly delivering on the product or service that we've promised to put out to the market, okay? And we're doing it consistently, the same way, the same time frame every time, so that everyone gets the best customer experience or that they have with our business as a whole. The people energy is about marketing and team. So both the team dynamics and marketing and selling in terms of connecting with people. So we're connecting the products that the innovative energy is creating with the people. All right, through marketing, sales, and through the team dynamic of running the business as well. And system energy is about administration and finance. So it's the back end energy in a business. Now, I'm going to tell you straight that every single one of you, regardless of what business you're in, even if you're in network marketing, requires all of these energies. You need a business that has product improvement and problem solving. So if you are in network marketing, for example, the network marketing company should be doing that for you, but it's still, you require that network marketing company in order to do that for you, right? Obviously, if you're network marketing, your main focus as a business is marketing and team, but I know most of you have got businesses that are more comprehensive than network marketing. So every one of you needs to be able to market. Every one of you needs to build and manage a team, and not necessarily employing people, but your suppliers, your outsourced, smart source people that you use, your contractors, whatever the case might be, or your employees, right? Every one of you needs to consistently deliver your product or service, and every one of you needs to administer and finance and manage the finances of your business in order to have a business. So your entity, let's not say you as an individual, let's talk about your entity, whatever your business is, needs all four of these energies effectively to operate. Does this make sense? Okay. We're generalizing here. We're keeping it relatively simple. We will go into this in a bit more detail. So here's the interesting thing. You can see those 8 red dots on the screen. 8 red dots. They represent 8 energies that you are one of. Let me just say that again. They represent 8 energies that you're one of. You cannot be more than one, and you cannot change. You were literally born. We don't know if exactly you were born, but you evolved in the early parts of your life to be a particular energy, right? So people that have been saying, I'm a creator, I'm a champion, I'm a catalyst, or all that kind of stuff, they understand this is the label they have for their energy, which we'll go into in depth now. But just so you understand, the top one over there, let me do it, yes, you can see it. Oh, you can't see it. That's weird. Okay. So anyway, the top one, right? The top center one is what we call pure innovative energy, all right? Commonly known in wealth dynamics as the creator or the catalyst in contribution compass. The bottom one is purely what we call a sensory energy, right? Clean sensory energy, commonly known as a trader or as a custodian I'm just saying them both because some people know the one and some people know the other. The right-hand energy is the pure people energy, is commonly known as either the supporter or the coach. So supporter in wealth dynamics, coach in contribution companies. These are exactly the same test, guys, just done by different companies with different names, but they're the same. And then on the left side, you've got your pure system energy, which is commonly known as your conductor in contribution compass, or in wealth dynamics, they call it the Lord. Okay. And then the middle ones are people in between. So you've got some people, the champions and stars, as they're commonly known, are people that have, that are very innovative, but also people orientated. Okay. Or the bottom corner one is somebody that's very people orientated, but also sensory orientated. Or the left bottom corner one is sensory or timing based, but very system orientated. Or the top left corner one is people that are very innovative, but very system orientated in innovation. You are one of these. I want to make that clear. You're one of these. So let's explore this in a little bit more detail. So I'm going to give you a whole lot of advice that is given by self-made billionaires. Let me be clear about this. These are all self-made billionaires, dollar billionaires. Okay, so we can assume from a business perspective they're successful. So who should you listen to for advice on business success? Which billionaire would you listen to? So we have on the left, you probably recognize him as Mr. Warren Buffett. He says that patience and temperament lead to success. Opposite him is the late, great Steve Jobs, who was notoriously bad-tempered and impatient. He says that innovation is the key to success. Who's right? Who's right? Because you might notice they're kind of not the same advice. Sometimes they're polar opposites of each other. You might not recognize the picture, but you probably heard the name Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch has 2 phones with him at all times. He says that success comes from never missing out on a deal. I'm sure most of you recognize Mr. Sir Richard Branson on the right. He doesn't carry a phone. He has a team of people who do the deals because he says he is absolutely terrible at doing deals himself. Huh? But they're both self-made billionaires. Which one's right? Interesting. Of course, you know the person on the left as the legend herself, Oprah Winfrey. She says that success comes from having an impeccable personal brand that other people admire and respect. Now, you probably don't recognize the guy on the right because he doesn't give a shit. All right, his name's Jim Ratcliffe from Ines Chemicals, self-made billionaire from Europe, is known as Dr. No. He's reclusive, irritable, doesn't compromise, and couldn't care less what people think of him. Now, I'm not saying who's right or wrong here, okay? These are 2 pretty extreme examples, but they're both self-made billionaires. Now, you literally, as you're listening to this, some of you are going, you know what? I get what Jim's talking about. And some of you are going, that's insane. Oprah, 100%, that's what it should be. There's something to be understood in why you are agreeing and disagreeing with different ones, because it's not all consistent if I had to ask you all to tell me which ones you agree with. Guy on the left is Ingvar Kamprad from IKEA, the famous furniture company from Sweden. He flies economy, has a 10-year-old car, and says that success comes from people who are frugal. They don't spend their money, right? Sometimes I always sigh when I put up, this example, because when I originally created this presentation, he wasn't the president of the United States, and I must admit I've lost a bit of respect for him, to say the least. But he was a successful self-made billionaire. Donald Trump has his own jet, a fleet of expensive cars. This is prior to being president of the United States, obviously, right? And he says success comes from people who look the part. Okay. Don't speak the part, apparently, as Mr. President. But anyway, let's not go there. Let's move on. All right. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, who is now classified as the wealthiest person in the world today, says to be successful, you need a system so simple that anyone can follow it. Now, you won't know this guy unless you're into trading. George Soros from Quantum Fund, one of the probably the leading stock trader of all time in the world today. He says to be successful, you should have no fixed system and you should be reliant only on yourself. Who do we listen to? Lastly, even somebody like an author, can you believe it, can become a billionaire? Of course, this is J.K. Rowling, the Harry Potter author, says, listen to your heart and not the marketplace. It doesn't know what it wants until it sees it. Lakshmi Mittal from Mittal Steel says that the numbers don't lie, so he doesn't stray from them. He says that emotions cause people to lose money. Who's right? Who's right? These are 12 self-made billionaires, okay? The self-made billionaire population is in a few hundreds. I just want to be clear about that, okay? Most of the billionaires, more than half the billionaires, 67 or something % of them are generational billionaires. We have a lot of self-made billionaires in the last sort of, few decades, but they are literally a very exclusive group of people, right? And these guys represent 12 very well-known billionaires, self-made billionaires. But if you listen to that advice, you will notice that some of it is completely contradictory to others. So who do we listen to? Well, firstly, who's right? Well, you kind of know. It's they're billionaires, for God's sakes, whether you like them or not. They're all right. They just created success in different ways. So if you felt yourself really gravitating towards some of them, I guarantee you that you're probably in the same energy spectrum as those people are. If you found that others were actually disgusting, like you thought that's ridiculous, how can you not care? Then you're just in a very opposite energy that those people are in, okay? Because I promise you, I can relate to all of those, having studied wealth dynamics for a very long time in Contribution Compass and having consulted with hundreds and hundreds of businesses using this energy system. I can relate to actually all of them. Even though I am I am the Richard Branson or the Steve Jobs, who are both creators or catalysts inside a business. So that's my profile in terms of relation to the people that you're currently seeing on the screen. Because I've studied it and I've worked and I've consulted in so many businesses, I understand what the crazy guys are saying. I understand Ingvar being very frugal. I understand George Soros talking about the way he talks about, or Lakshmi talking about the way he talks about. And I understand Mr. Ratcliffe when he is this not caring person who doesn't give a shit about what people think about him. I get it, because there are certain energies where that is prevalent in how the person is. Can you succeed being an arsehole? Yes. Can you succeed? I mean, by the way, Steve Jobs was commonly known as a bit of an arsehole as well. Mr. Ratcliffe was clearly an arsehole who didn't give a damn about what people thought about him. You know what? I don't know Mr. Ratcliffe personally, but I know a lot more about Steve Jobs, and I know a lot of the people that are the same energies as them. They're two different energies, by the way. But you can be a bit of an arsehole in business and even publicly, and you might come across the wrong way, and maybe you don't care, but you can still be successful. And you can be an arsehole to the business world, and you can be not an arsehole to your wife or kids. So, we can judge them if that's what we think is important for us to do. I'm here to tell you that all of them are deservedly self-made billionaires. Even Mr. Trump, okay, are deservedly self-made billionaires because they played the game right. It's just that they didn't do it the same way. If Ingvar had to try and do it the way that Steve did it, he would never get it right. If Lakshmi had tried to be the same as Richard Branson, Lakshmi would have failed. Richard Branson would have failed if he tried to be like Lakshmi or tried to be like Warren Buffett, okay? They did not play, they had to play specific games that related to what energy they were. Now, there's two ways when we look at this energy and dynamics. Let's go back to that diagram that we've put up there. There's two things we look at here. The one is what we look at our journey, what we call so wealth dynamics. We talk about how do you become wealthy? What's the game you should play from that perspective? The one that's more comprehensive in real understanding of business and dynamics is like the contribution compass talks about how do you best contribute to your business. So you might not be the best person to be the MD of your business, because a good MD would be somewhere on the left-hand side energy, or potentially the right-hand side energy in the middle, and you might be at the top. So why do you have to be the MD of your business? If you can establish your business properly and realize somebody else is better suited to being the MD of the business, and you may be better to being the marketing director or not even being there at all, you need to understand this. So firstly, who are you? And secondly, who is everyone around you? Okay, so let me quickly go through this. So I mentioned these different energies, obviously. So this is contribution compass, if you can see it on the screen. And it consists of, and I just did this wrong, so ignore the fade in. I've got it back to front. It's supposed to be blocked and then show you, but you can see. So the compass is circular. Wealth dynamics, we talk about the square. It doesn't matter. They each point either to the top, to the left top, to the left bottom, to the bottom right, to the right and to the right top. Okay, so you can see how the compasses literally point to one of those points. Okay, so in wealth dynamics we talk about the square, and the compass, each compass point points to one of those 8 things. So we talk about, so the terms that we use, I like the contribution compass terms. We talk about activating energy versus sustaining energy, and inspiring energy versus tempering energy. So activating energy is good at getting things going, or good at making things happen. Okay, so the catalyst energy, I'm a catalyst energy. I can get things going. If anything, I'm too impulsive and I go too fast, okay, which can have its negative downflow. Every energy has pros and cons equally, okay? So don't think that there's a perfect energy to be an entrepreneur. There's not. Many, many, many catalyst or champion or calibrator energies, innovative energies, very common in starting businesses. And so is the tempering and inspiring. The one that's least common in starting businesses is the sustaining energy. The people that were answering when they were saying what energies they were a very few sustaining energies, the bottom energies, in this case, the cultivator, custodian, connector energies that are in the session, because they are less likely to start businesses. The majority of people who come out as calibrators, catalysts, champions, because they're more likely to start a business. And conductors and coaches in the middle are actually in the middle. Some of them start businesses, some of them thrive in corporate environment. So catalysts are great at getting things going, brilliant at ideas, really, really foster getting things going, but because they're not sustaining, they actually run out of steam often, right? The champion, so similarly, he's also great with ideas, but he's far better at taking the ideas and connecting them with the people. Notice the innovation energy to the people energy. So that he takes he's in the middle of activating and inspiring energy, he or she. So champions are people that shine their light on themselves or on the business or product, very good at marketing, very good at positioning, companies and articulating mission statements, vision statements, marketing statements, taglines, etc. The coach is very much the people energy, like a Jack Walsh. So champion examples are Oprah Winfrey's a champion, and Barack Obama was a champion. Catalyst examples are people like Richard Branson and Steve Jobs and Bill Gates as examples. Coach energies, a very well-known one is Jack Walsh, who took over General Electric many years ago and turned it into a multi-billion-dollar successful business. He took it over when it was in a mess, and he did it through working with people. He wrote all his books on leadership, on how to inspire people, how to get the most out of people. The connector energy is a rarer energy, believe it or not. Donald Trump is a connector energy. You wouldn't think it sometimes the way he acts as president, but anyway, let's not go there. But a connector energy is very good at building relationships over time and connecting people at the appropriate time. Where the champion energy is going to be spontaneous, the catalyst, is going to just want to connect you immediately. The connector energy will maintain relationships. Probably the best energy for network marketing is your coach and connector energy, right? Because it's about building and maintaining relationships over time. The custodian is exactly that. They are the custodian of the brand, the custodian of the organization. They're all about making sure we consistently sustain our operation and how we deliver. Remember what it says at the bottom: consistent delivery and customer experience. The cultivator, which is in between the custodian and temporary energy, is very much a person who's about cultivating. How do we maximize the results? So how do we plant, nurture, and manage and reap the rewards out of that at the right time? So they're very much about measuring and about using measurement to determine how we should do things. The conductor is exactly like a conductor of an orchestra. The conductor, that's why they make very good CEOs, takes an organization with lots of components, like an orchestra with lots of musicians, and makes them gel together and work together to produce an incredible piece of music. So a conductor in a business is a very good energy in making things all work together, getting all the cogs to work together as a context. And a calibrator is very good at exactly that. How do we get a system to work better? So calibrators are like innovative energy around systems. So they're very good at building systems. So just to give you an example, conductors are people like, I'm just going blank. What's his name? John Paul Chetty, the famous oil guy. There's a lot of conductors. If you look at like people that start major commodity type businesses, you'll find conductors. One of the founders of Google, I get confused sometimes, is a conductor. I can't remember if it's Larry or the other one. Cultivators are a cultivator, by the way, is like Warren Buffett. So they cultivate, like Warren will buy businesses and then maximize. He'll cultivate them to get the maximum return over an extended period of time. Custodians are like George Soros. From a business perspective, they will trade, and hence the name trader under Wealth Dynamics of a custodian. But they will buy and sell from a business perspective, right? So like people that actually managing your stock and determining stock values, custodians are very good at. People that are managing delivery of a long-term project or program, custodians are very good at. Cultivators they nurture longer, as in cultivate. Connectors are connecting, and so there's many examples. I've just gone a bit blank. Calibrators, one of the best known ones that we often use as an example is Ray Koch, who was the guy that actually took over McDonald's and turned it into a massive global organization, because it's all about maximizing the systemization of a business and getting the system to work to the maximum level. So from a perspective of how we contribute, each of these elements, there's a lot more to it than I'm explaining to you now, because I could spend hours trying to talk you through this. But how many of you would agree, and I want to tell you that there's no tool that I will share with you over the next 5 sessions after this one that is more profoundly powerful if you use it properly than these natural energy tools, either Wealth Dynamics or Contribution Compass. So how many of you would agree that if you knew what energy you were, it would potentially be helpful in how you effectively run your business going forward? Let me know in the questions box. Some of you know what it is. Some of you have answered. Many of course said you haven't. How many of you would agree that if you actually knew, you don't have to fully understand it, because we'll take you through it further, and if you actually do the test, you'll get a lot more information on it. But from the little I've explained to you and the examples I used around, self-made billionaires, how many of you would agree that if you knew what energy you were, it would be really helpful in how you take your business forward as a whole? And of course, most people are saying yes, right? Tons and tons of people. Some of you are confirming what you are. Thank you. I got that already. And lots of you saying I agree. Now, here's the interesting thing. This is only like 10% of what this is about. Knowing what energy you are and being able to understand how you think in crisis, how you should lead, how you handle things is important to you, and it'll help you make certain decisions about your business, but it's only 10% of the power of knowing what your natural energy is. The other 90% is the team you build around you, is understanding the dynamics of how people work together. Because in my business, I'm a catalyst. I have another catalyst in our business. I have 3 champions in our business. I have 2 coaches in our business. I have 1 connector in our business. I have 2 custodians in our business, and I have 1 calibrator in our business. We actually today realized that we lack conductor and cultivator energy, and it's something that we're going to work on going forward. But we strategically build a team based on complementary energies, and we strategically give the roles to the right energies for people that are going to naturally be far better at marketing or building teams than they are doing systems. Like, for instance, one of our coaches, one of our senior team members in our session today, we started to talk, we ended the whole session talking about these new systems we're going to implement and this whole process, how we're going to lay out this whole process stuff. And she like literally put her hand up and said, how much do I need to do this? Because even though she fully understands why it's there, because she's pretty advanced individual around business, she, as a coach energy, the idea of sitting and tempering the business as an inspirational energy freaks her out. It just does not inspire her. But the people that were more on the left side, including me, who's in the middle of the topic, can lean over to the left, we get excited about the fact of creating structure and order through the business, through systems and processes, right? And, and it requires a lot of tangible capturing and recording and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, a person that's more centered to the left energy, they're going to enjoy doing that. The person that's more on the right energy is going to hate doing administration and capturing data and doing all that kind of analysis. So it's important to know, because I'm telling you that your business is going to at some stage need a combination of most of these energies. You don't necessarily need all 8 of the energies, but you at least need activating energy, you need inspiring energy, sustaining energy, and temperament. And that's going to be developed by how you build a team. That's the critical component that I want to get onto, right? So the question obviously is, well, how do I determine what my energy is? Now, these organizations, Wealth Dynamics and Contribution Compass, are professional organizations, so they charge you for service, right? Now, some people are going to say, but Brian, there's a thing called the DISC test, and you can do a DISC test for free, and isn't that okay? And so I'm just going to say there are a lot of other tests out there. We know a lot of them. From the perspective of entrepreneurship and you being an entrepreneur and your wealth creation through business and how you effectively serve your business and how you effectively get other people to effectively serve your business, these tests are the best that we found by a long shot. Okay, so we use them religiously, excuse the expression. I will not hire a person. I will not coach a person. I won't even date a person without knowing what the energy is. I'm not gonna, I promise you, it's profound. I've walked into a business that was 150 million rand business that was about to fall apart, literally bursting at the seams, okay? Half the senior management was about to leave. The investors wanted their money back. The company was in dire straits. And I walked into that business. It was the first big consulting job I did about 7 years ago. And I walked into that business and I used Wealth Dynamics. I used another tool that I'll talk to you about tomorrow, but I used Wealth Dynamics as a primary tool. And we turned that business around. The investors wanted their money back. The company didn't have the money because they weren't making money yet, because they needed more time, but they were screwing up. And these all senior people in the engineering fields were about to leave the company. And the CEO said, Brian, I think there's something wrong. I'm picking up stuff in the corridor. Can you do an intervention? And we found out that 3 people had been offered jobs already. 1 had already accepted another job. These are 3 critical. If these people left, this business was going to collapse. And I found out why they did it. And I intervened at a high level by thoroughly teaching the entire team. There were 11 people on the management team. In those days, I was using Wealth Dynamics, exactly what their profiles were and why. The CEO, who was a catalyst or a creator, was really about to lose his lords or conductors, which were 3 of them in the team, because he didn't understand what they expected and how to interact with them effectively. Long and the short of it, and it took us a while because it was a desperate situation, we turned that team around. Only 1 person left, which we actually strategically asked to leave. The rest of them actually stayed. They gave up on their job hunting. And that team collectively bought the business back themselves from the 150 million rand investor from the UK, only 3 years later, less than 3 years later. Okay, they turned that the same people that were imploding at the time that I walked in, turned that business into a huge success in the next couple of years. Same people, simply by understanding the power of knowing who is what natural energy and how we interact and relate between those individuals. So please understand, 10% is you. Even though it's worth spending a little bit of money to find out who you are, it's far more about your team and how you interact and relate to those teams as a whole. So I want to give you guys the opportunity. I'm going to do something I'm not actually allowed to do. I've never done it before. And those that know me know, because we're not actually allowed to discount this. So please don't tell the powers that be. I'm stuck. Why is my presentation not moving? La-di-da-di-da. Just give me a sec. Murphy's Law. Whole presentation is stuck. Let's get out of it. Let's press play again. There we go. And should be working now if all's right. Wait for the bandwidth. We just got a rainstorm starting. Oh, sorry, I'm not stuck. I've got these other stupid things that I forgot about. So you can buy a token to do a contribution compass test, okay? What you do is you basically pay us a little bit of money and we send you a token to an online test. It takes about 20 minutes. I would budget 30 minutes to be safe. They're quite complex questions that you have to answer. Please answer them as honestly and truthfully as you can. So 20 minutes for us foster guys who might make mistakes by rushing it. Let's say 30 minutes to be safe if you're going to do it thoroughly. You're going to then, off the back of the test, you're going to get your result. What is your profile? You also get an 18-page detailed PDF report about your profile and how to use it. So there's a lot of information you can use straight off the back of that. You also get a special login to the Contribution Compass area to review you and your team's profiles. So you can add team profiles to yours and it'll actually give you comparatives of your whole team and how your energy ratio works amongst your team, et cetera, et cetera. So that's very helpful, something that Wealth Dynamics never really did. And you get membership to the Contribution Compass community as well. Now, that what it costs is 995 Rand, including that, okay, to do a token. Now, some of you go like, yeah, it's a lot of money. It's like, you know, I recommend you do this for all your staff. And people go like, yeah, but you know, like it's $1,000. I mean, to do it for our staff, for those that don't understand Rands, that's about $80, okay, give or take, $80, $82, somewhere around there. And I'm saying, like, really, how much do you pay your staff? You know, even your low end staff are probably getting $5,000 a month, which is 60,000 Rand a year. You worried about spending $1,000 on a 60,000 Rand salary to find out how to make them more productive and produce greater results in your business. Just think about that. Anyway, I'm not asking you to start with your staff. You know, you can talk about that later on. I'm asking you to start with yourself. But I'm going to do something that I literally have never done before, and I'm not supposed to do. I literally decided to do this just before we started the session. I'm going to give you an opportunity to buy it not at 995 Rand, but actually at a 200 Rand discount. And please do, if you tell the guys at Contribution Compass, I'm going to get a serious phone call because we're not supposed to do this, but I'm doing this exclusively for you guys and it's only for now. Now, how do you buy it? Let me just make this really easy and go over here, offers, and just load the offer, Contribution Compass, publish. Okay, so you should see a pop-up that came up saying, you know, Contribution Compass profiles, click here to buy now. So I just want to show you how to get this discount very clearly, okay? You click on that link, it'll take you to, ironically, our events booking page, which is over here, and it'll look like this when you come in, okay, Contribution Compass. Now, remember that I said I'll put it back on the screen, but there's a promotional token you can put in, and this is only going to be available today, guys. Please take advantage of this if you want to. By the way, we've got a bulk discount on 10 profiles at 895 Rand each. In other words, 8,950 for 10 of them. But this discount is going to come off all 10 of them as well. And so you just type in REOI, Real Entrepreneur Online Intensive, and you go apply the discount, and kaboom, $795 for a single profile, $695 if you buy 10 or more. That's crazy. People that know profiling, like, you don't get them at these kind of discounts. I just want to encourage as many of you to do it as possible. You know, yes, we earn a little bit of money off it, but it's hardly worth speaking about. So I'm surely not doing this because I earn money off it. I'm trying to give you a tool that can transform your life. So do yourself a favor, click on the link. Let me just put this back on the screen so you can see the REOI as the code that you must use. Click on the link and go and buy yourself a profile if you haven't done it before. If you have done it before and you need to get some extra profiles, this is the last chance ever you're going to get it for, you know, 20% plus discount on the process. So you might want to take advantage of that now before I get into trouble from the guys at Contribution Compass for offering this publicly. My argument is it's not publicly, it's in a closed environment, but we never normally do this. So we're going to knock off $200, which is over 20%, if you just put in that code when you purchase them now. What will happen is you'll do your purchase this evening. Tomorrow morning, our team will allocate the profile. So you won't get them straight away this evening. Tomorrow morning, your inbox by about 9 o'clock, let's say latest, you'll have the email with the link to go and do your test. Okay, you'll set up a little login and you'll go and do your test, and you can find this out. It will be helpful when we get onto team in I think it's the week, I think it's the wins team. Team's the third week, I think. that you know what your profile is. But I'm going to constantly reference profiles. So it'll be helpful that you do this as soon as possible. So if you can, take advantage of this tonight and actually do your profile tonight or tomorrow morning. I mean, you can't do it tonight, but buy it tonight. Do it tomorrow morning. By the time you come to the session tomorrow night, you already know what your natural energy profile is. I promise you, it is a minuscule investment to make in something that's going to have a huge, huge impact on your business and life. Even if you don't fully understand what I'm talking about, but you kind of get the gist, I promise you, this is it's a very, very worthwhile investment to get yourself involved in. And other than that, guys, that's it for the session. Oh, I'm 2 minutes over. I'm sorry, man. We got a little bit carried away. So not bad, 2 minutes over. We did say 9:30. So thanks for those that I see. No one really left the room, so that's a good thing. So guys, if you have any questions, I'm gonna leave the room open. If you're purchasing profiles, if you get stuck on it, and by the way, you can pay EFT. If you're in South Africa, you can pay by EFT, or you can pay by credit card when you go and book on the system that the link goes to. So even if you don't have a credit card or debit card to use, just do the EFT payment straight away. It'll only give you, I think, a certain, like a day or something to make the payment. So please take advantage of that. If you're outside of South Africa, remember it's about $82, give or take. In fact, in the current exchange, I can tell you, I want to make sure, yeah. So $9.95 divide, let's just say 12. It's a little bit less. Yeah, $83 in real terms. I don't have a dollar version of it available, so just buy it in rands. But just so you know, it's going to exchange to roughly $82 to buy. Sorry, less than 200. So what am I talking about? With the token, it's going to go at 7.95 divide 12. So it's going to be, about $66. Okay, just so you get a real context of that cost. And if you don't understand rands, for those of you, I know the neighboring countries generally understand rands, but the guys further up don't. So, about $66 at the discounted rate. You can obviously buy as many as you need for your team. I highly recommend you buy it for everyone that works around you, because I'm not going to offer this discount. We'll mention it again in a few weeks' time, but I'm not going to offer the discount because by then I would have been shat on for offering it to you in the first place. So if you want to take advantage of it, buy a few of them now. Okay. Lisa saying, cannot get the link, please assist. What's the difference between wealth and I'll come to you now that on Henry. I'll come to you on that now. What's the difference between the two? Can you buy 10 tokens at 200 Rand each? No, William. You can buy 10 tokens at 695 Rand each. You get 200 Rand off. So if you go onto the sheet, just I don't know which page to be on, but you'll see that it says $8.95 for 10 or more tokens. And if you put the code in, it'll minus $200 off it. So it'll go to $6.95. $200, sorry, it cost me 3 times that just to be able to sell them to you. So that ain't going to work. All right. So the question was, I'm struggling with the link, somebody says. So do me a favor, if you're really struggling with the link, but please book it online now, because I can't guarantee that I can give you the discount tomorrow. But if you really are struggling and you can't get through, just type in your phone number. By typing in your phone number with international code, I'll ask one of my team to phone you tomorrow morning just to guide you or to arrange for you to make the payment. Okay, but please don't do that if you can do it online now, because my team has limited resource and we're extremely busy right now. So if we have to phone 2 or 3 people, that's fine. But if we have to phone 20 of you, that's going to become a problem. So please, the link should have popped up where your chat box is. Somewhere there, you should have seen a link pop up. The link would say something to the effect of contribution company files. It has the logo, and then it says click below to buy now, and it says click here to buy. And when you click here to buy, it takes you through to Quicket. It's actually our ticketing booking system, and I just want you to quickly set it up for you. It says Contribution Compass tokens, and it says $9.95 for a single token, or 10 or more tokens, 895 Rand each. Okay, and then you just click on where it says use promotional code. You put in REOI. You can see it on the screen at the bottom left, bottom right hand there. You click apply, and by so doing, it'll drop the price for you. Okay, it'll discount 200 Rand off the single and 200 Rand off the 10 or more. Okay, so you'll pay 795 Rand for a single, about $66. Or you'll pay, so it's 6,950 Rand for 10, or 695 Rand each after that 10. Okay, you'll see there's only an option to select 10 when you select the one for 10 or more. So that's obviously if you've got quite a few that you want, and that's a ridiculous price because we're normally allowed to discount to 895, but it's a 2,000 Rand discount below that now today before I get into trouble. I know some of you are going to tell Carl, and he's going to be phoning me tomorrow morning. Like, what are you doing selling lower than the market price? So I can't, please take advantage of this now, because I'm not making up stories here about been able to do it again, this is your once-off opportunity to save a little bit of cash. I'm trying to encourage you as much as possible by pretty much giving you my commission to go and get yourself a profile and do the profile, because I just know how profoundly powerful this is. All right, there were a couple of questions. I'm going to hang around and answer some questions. We are finished, guys, so you don't need to hang around. There's no more education coming on. We will see you tomorrow evening, same time, same place, and we'll be talking more about your personal mastery and then money. Okay, if money is a challenge in your life, we need to talk about it. You definitely don't want to miss tomorrow's session or the next one, because we talk about money in the third session as well, mastering money as a whole. But there are some questions that came up, so let me just quickly go through them. The one that sort of caught my eye was, what is the difference between Wealth Dynamics and Contribution Compass? So, Henry, in terms of the test, now I can get technical around what we think is the difference in the test, but it's minor. Basically, if we say you're a catalyst in Contribution Compass, you're a creator in Wealth Dynamics. So the tests are fundamental. The reason I say there's a difference is Wealth Dynamics uses what we call a 10 indicator test system to determine what your profile is. In Contribution Compass, we use 100 indicators, so 10 times more algorithm dynamics to determine. So we think it's a little bit more accurate. But I mean, Roger's system has been pretty accurate. I've used it for many, many years. So I don't mind whether you use Wealth Dynamics or Contribution Compass. You can just interrelate. If I talk Catalyst, if you know Wealth Dynamics, you'll just know that that's a creator. However, when it comes to team dynamics, Contribution Compass is developing far greater solutions and support systems. Like when you log into your system and you can add all your team members to your profile, and it shows you the energy spectrum for your whole business versus just individuals. So there are some technical things. It's also more cost effective. You'll know that Wealth Dynamics profile is $97, whereas this is only about $86 or $82 in current exchange. That's not a major difference, but it does make a difference. But that's the main reason is we believe we work directly with Contribution Compass, so we believe we build in a more substantial team-orientated product. Something that's going to help you build and manage teams from a profiling perspective better. But I have no issue if you use Wealth Dynamics 100%. I'm not there to say one is better than the other in any major way. I'm just giving you the reason why we choose Contribution Compass above Roger's Wealth Dynamics. But if you've done Wealth Dynamics, that's fine. Some of our students like to do Contribution Compass again, just to make sure if they weren't sure that the Wealth Dynamics profile was right. But if you've done Wealth Dynamics, that's fine. That's why you'll keep hearing me interchange the two, the different profile names, just so because I know I'm talking to different people as a whole. And less 200 is $795. That's for the single profiles. And if you buy the bulk, which is 10 or more, then it goes down to $695. Okay, let me just see what other questions we got here. Okay, thanks. Just lots of thank yous. That's great. Can you buy 10? No, 200. I already answered that, William. Cheers, Brian. Thanks. Check you on tomorrow. Cool. Cheers, Brian. Great. Thank you. What's the difference between Wealth Dynamics and Contribution Compass from Henry? I think I answered that sufficiently. Just let me know, Henry. Lisa cannot get the link. Please assist. So Lisa, just check if you still didn't find the link. Just throw your phone number in there with the international code, please, and I will get our team will, the guys that allocate the tokens in the morning. I'll give you a quick call to see if they can arrange it directly with you. Patrick, to clarify, is a person's profile confidential or available for sale to recruiters? Okay, no, so it's confidential, Patrick. You will get your own login. No one else, only people that you choose to give access to it. It's not made open to anyone else. Sadar and those companies, they're not recruitment companies at all. So they have got nothing to do with recruitment. And so it's entirely individual. So if you do your team, only you get to see, who your team are and how they fit together. It's entirely confidential. It does not get shared with anyone. So I just want to be clear, we're not Facebook now. We don't even let people by mistake find our stuff. Okay, if you know what's happened with Facebook, you'll understand. If you don't, you won't have a clue what I'm talking about. But no, 100%, it's 100% confidential. It's not shared with anyone. Cool. And that's all the questions. I'm going to hang around for a few minutes. If there's any more questions, please throw them in. Still quite a lot of you in the room, but I'm going to go quiet. And of course, guys, we'll catch you next week. We'll catch you tomorrow, same time. Tomorrow, like I said, personal mastery, some very powerful stuff we're going to share with you with some additional learning resources that we'll give you from John DeMartini and what have you. And then we're also going to be talking about mastering money. So that's some critical stuff around how we master and create structure and order around money in our business and life. So very, very important. I will catch you guys then. I'll just watch for a few minutes. If any other questions come up, I'll answer them. Otherwise, we'll shut down in a few minutes' time. Guys, have an amazing evening, and I'll see you tomorrow. Cool, Kathy, we'll send it to you in the morning. Give us till about 9 o'clock. I'll get it to, the team should get on probably about 8 o'clock and send them, just to be safe though. Check your email by 9 o'clock, you should have it in there to do the test. Sebastian's asking, when can I find all the materials from the session? So Sebastian, the reminder emails that were sent to you this morning, the same one will be sent to you tomorrow morning, every session before, has a link to the 2 manuals. So if you look at the emails you received, the last ones, you'll see it has 2 download links for the 2 manuals. The one manual is the information manual, the other one's the workbook manual. So it's just called part 1, part 2, because it's normally in one manual. But you can download those, which I mentioned earlier. And the recording of the session will be available tomorrow. You should get an email. I'm hoping by the end of tomorrow. We just got some technical stuff we have to try and sort out, which will invite you to join our programs portal. It'll come from the Real Entrepreneur Programs portal. And you'll create a login and it'll send you into our back end. And the access to the recordings of these sessions will be there, as well as additional learning material. Like tomorrow, we'll mention a video by John that you'll be able to access in there as well. So please look out for that email to access the programs portal later tomorrow, and I'll update you tomorrow evening as to whether it did go out, but I'm pretty sure it'll go out tomorrow, and then you'll be able to get to this recording as well. And we'll put the manuals inside the back end as well, just in case you haven't found them on your emails. So that should answer that question. Got you. See you tomorrow. Cool, man. That's Claudia. All right, guys, have a great evening. I'll stay open for a few minutes just in case. Otherwise, we'll be shutting down in about 2 or 3 minutes' time.